At Frontline Gaming, we make the best tabletop gaming mats in the universe. Our mats are durable, rollable, foldable, wipeable, and storable. Oh, and they look damn great too. Join the thousands of tournament regulars and garage gamers who use our mats to bring their gaming surfaces to life. To ensure quality, Frontline Gaming mats are custom made one at a time, printed with high quality ink. Our immersive designs stay crisp and are available in a wide range of styles and sizes. So whether you're playing a war game or skirmish game, whether you're fighting over an alien tundra, fantastical forest, or real-world setting, there's a great-looking battlefield for you. Our gaming mats are printed on extremely durable neoprene backing, so they won't slide around the table, and they're thick enough to stay flat, protecting what's underneath and allowing for slight uneven surfaces. We know from experience that an easily portable gaming surface is just better. Every mat comes with a sturdy nylon zip-up bag for storage and transportation. Whether your next battle is in your home or at the local game store, you'll be able to unroll your FLG mat and get gaming right away. Our products are all made and tested by passionate gamers at Frontline Gaming HQ right here in the USA. It's time to take your battlefield to a new level. Frontline Gaming, champions of tabletop.
Welcome back to SoCal Open 2021. I of course am Andrew, joined by my co-host Adam. Adam, how are you this morning?
Really good, my man. We are here, final day of SoCal 2021. This is the top 8, 4 games for your viewing pleasure. Well, three of those 4 games for your viewing pleasure. The 4th one being cut off because we showed that one yesterday, and we thought we'd throw you the 3 freshies.
Of course, and for our matchups today, as we can see, the one you mentioned that we had yesterday was Sean Naden versus Joel Wilson, which is Dark Angels versus Drukhari. But let's go to some of the other tables. Who do we have on table 1?
Table 1, we have Junior Aflehi, I believe, playing against
Matthew Geyer.
Matthew Geyer, exactly
Yes.
right. Now, that's going to be an interesting one, and one of 2 games in this round that is going to be AdMech versus Drukhari, which is the exciting thing there is we could see either AdMech or Drukhari wiped out from the event after this round.
That's exactly right. I mean, both of these lists are playing against each other on both tables 1 and table 2. That's AdMech and Drukhari. They're fairly similar with some slight changes. So it's got a lot is going to come down to, I think, who goes first in those matchups, and just those subtle differences may make all the difference.
Exactly right. Now, we want to welcome everybody joining us on our various platforms, everybody on Facebook, over on Twitch, over on YouTube. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Hopefully, we can give you the best production possible for the remainder of the finals. And just that, please give us a like, a share, and subscribe. Go and tell your friends, tell your mates. There is some great coverage going on today. 3 games, knockout, elimination. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. The best 8 players in attendance for the SoCal Open playing it off. Now, this next table we've got, what is that? We've also got AdMech and Drukhari.
Yeah, so this is Matt Estrada and Quentin Johnson are playing the AdMech and Drukhari. Again, this lists are very similar to each other. The only real major difference between the 2 AdMech lists is one has 4 flyers and one has 3 flyers.
And one has 3. And one's a veteran cohort, the other one isn't.
Yes.
Which also is actually a big point of distinction into Drukhari, especially because you just have a couple of other little tech pieces here and there, a little bit more explosive power, being able to move and advance a charge to match their advance a charge in turn 2. So you can really go like shot for shot with them.
It's exactly right. Now, I'm not exactly sure the tech choice of why he chose not to have. Actually, I must correct you. They are both armies of renown with the Skitaria cohort.
Oh, apologies. I must have missed it on Junior. The Matthew Geyer list. I didn't think he was.
Yeah, so they both, of course, have that full-throttled veteran cohort, which just gives the army so much more unnecessary power, in my opinion.
Unnecessary power? You're absolutely right.
So here on table 3, though, we have kind of the magical last game. We have our last Ork standing going into the finals here versus, of course, Chaos Demons, who had a bit of an upset against the forces of the Hive Mind yesterday. So
yes, well, we've got 2 heroes in the field. We've got a Dark Angels player who pretty much shouldn't be there in this meta, and we've got a Demons player who's just picking his spot. He's playing into Orks, and just well, I've just got big Grizzlies with good saves and a couple of -1 to hit and all these defensive debuffs. I think he thinks he's good. We've heard from the man on the floor. He's like, well, I like this matchup. I think I'm good here.
Yeah, I mean, so this is Scott LaFontaine playing the demons, and of
Mhm.
course Logan Heath playing the orcs. Now, I would say that you and I both agree that Scott with the demons is a little favored going into this matchup, just
Mhm.
because these demons are very hard to remove, especially for I guess less of what you'd see of the common orc freebooters build, and more of kind of a
Yeah.
smattering of everything. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, two of the greater demons who rolled for their exalted traits got -1 to wound, which is a bit of a
Huge.
pickle.
Absolutely huge deal, which makes him all but immune to the rocket trucks, wounding them on sixes, and then in addition to that, all those things that we're wounding them on threes, all the WAS bombs and all the scrap
Scrap
jets,
bets,
all wounding
yeah.
them on fours, and then you could spike a 2 CP, spike a 4+ invulnerable save at will. In addition to that, at least one of the ones with a 4+, with a -1 to wound, has an Aegis for a 6-up feel no pain in addition. So one of those guys is just really hard to kill, and we know we've taken to the last, so we've got to assume it's on that one, right?
Of course, of course. I wouldn't. I don't think there's really a tech choice other than that to put it on that model. But the thing is that even though normally you'd think he'd be keeping back a to the last with a -1 to wound and a 6-up feel no pain, I don't think he
just
even needs to hold
just
it back.
go. Well, he needs to kill stuff. The worst thing he can have is have this whole orc army just wearing him down every turn. Because despite the rocket trucks winning on sixes, they'll still do like 2 or 4 wounds a turn. You know,
Yes.
over 4 turns of a game, that probably kills a keeper. You just can't let that happen. But the thing is, you have time. You actually have breathing space and the time to get into your opponent's face, take away a lot of resources. I like Scott in that matchup as well. For those following along at home, the mission for this one is Overrun. If you want to go look it up, that is a Dawn of War deployment, 6 objective mission. You have
Yes, sir.
one objective centrally in your deployment zone, like in the middle of your deployment zone, and then 2 just outside your deployment zone, as in like 1 inch outside your deployment zone is 2 more. And then, of course, you have your opponent's 3. Now, this is usually one where we see people go like for like 40 to 40 or 30 to 30 with their primary score, because it's very easy to hold 3 in your
Yeah.
deployment zone, and you just leave your opponent alone and let them hold them. But I would
No.
like to say that's not my expectation for these matchups. Sorry, mate, you
No,
go.
I mean, even though there are 6 objectives, it's still a hold 2, hold 3 mission, which means that if one of the players gets early position and starts throttling, then
Mm,
that's a big problem. I mean, like you have these objectives in your deployment zone, but if one of the opponents, obviously the orcs going first here, get some table advantage in trying to, I'm assume, block the demons from being able to get any
yes.
real estate on the board, but
Mm,
but two of the greater demons can assault those flyers. I'm assuming he's going to be
yeah.
sending Be'lakor straight at the WAS bomb, which is
Well,
one of
this
the
is
few things that can hurt him.
really wish the WAS bomb was on the other side, was on the right side of this conglomerate rather than on the left, because Bellacor's just going to walk up and smash that guy out of the air in very quick fashion. I'm not sure where it was deployed though. That might have been the only option for where that unit moved. Now, I would like to point out, Orcs have gone first. That's pretty much their best possible outcome. If they
Yes,
had gone second, it would have been
yes.
really bad. And I do think he's on the right track with blocking off the lanes of ingress that the demons have moving up the table, because it's very speedy boys he's got.
Yeah, I think he's maybe just like getting the best that he can possibly eke
Mm,
out with regards to this matchup, because we know that those planes are essentially only going to block this army for one turn realistically,
mm,
because the Lord of Change you see is just going to go into here and kill probably one plane by itself, maybe two. We'll see with the combination of psychic and
yep.
the range combat. But then obviously you have Be'lakor here, who's just going to go straight that
Mm.
way and delete that plane, and then he has free reign to then go right into the orc deployment
Exactly
zone.
right. Now we can already see that the Orcs have deployed a bit of a strong left flank or right flank for Logan, because he's got the 3 scrap jets to the left of screen, and also the 2 of the 3 rocket trucks in addition. Now, what I'd like to see there is I want to see 3 keepers line up to put 3 smites into one plane. The Lord of Change to possibly double down to put well, one of the cool things here is Zinch's Gateway. You can go onto the middle plane and then proc mortal wounds onto 2 of the other Daka jets, which would be quite cute if you can line that up. And then he can proc a smite into that middle one and also charge that middle one. And then Be'lakor, goes straight to the left, picks up that WAS bomb, and that's one of the biggest danger points for the Greater Demons already off the table. All those las cannons just got to go.
Now, my question is, you can enlighten me. I forget because I'm so used to the Vortex of Doom ability. Does
Hmm.
Infernal Gateway? What is the range of the splash on that spell?
I believe it's within 3 inches.
So these actually should still be in range of Infernal Gateway, which
Mm,
means that that might be a mistake on the Orc's part, because he could have likely still
yeah.
blocked for the most, because the
Mm,
keeper's bases are so large, but kept them more than 3 inches apart. So
exactly
then
right.
essentially you don't get that splash.
Yeah, well, I really, if you were Logan, what would you do? If I was him, every gun I've got is going into Bellicor, every single one. And just like, I might just get him. And if I get him, absolutely huge, game on. I might just smash from here. And Logan still has plenty of opportunity in this game. Going first is such a big deal for him. He could just take this, man. If he just rolls a little bit above average, he can just smash straight through this demon army. I mean, I know why Scott feels confident, but it's a lot of gun, man. It's still a lot of gun.
Okay. Well, I think maybe I disagree only because Bellicor I think is fairly untenable against with this army. I mean, with a -1 to wound and a -1 to hit natively, we know how difficult a -1 to hit is for freebooters. Essentially, you would have to kill two of his units in order to negate that damage.
This is the issue. What I think Scott's done. Scott has tried to wall off the freebooters as well. You see, he's got 2 lines of Nurglings out on the table. We said off screen, maybe possibly the best thing Scott could do is to throttle the freebooters and have nothing but greater demons on the table. All the demonettes in reserve. Maybe the Beast of Nurgle on the table, out of line of sight. You mean you can try and shoot Rucker Trucks at them? They're really hard to kill with Rucker Trucks. But yeah, no Nurglings on the table because the Rucker Trucks just smash them, just absolutely smash them. And so you could possibly give up 2 kills and just negate the -1.
Yeah, so I agree. I'm a little surprised that he has basically his entire army on the board. That was
I think
unexpected.
it's a mistake. The Dakka Jets just get to pick up demonettes, which they're extremely good at doing, and then the Rucker Trucks just get to pick up Nurglings. He could be having like +3 to hit the first time he tries to shoot at Bellicor.
Yeah. So let's go back to table 1. We're seeing some action between Junior and his opponent Matthew. It looks like Matthew managed to go first, and he is doing what AdMech does, which is flood the lines with flyers.
Well, so this is generally my fear in this matchup. I think just the Stratoraptor build for AdMech is just better than the Raider-esque build for Drukhari. It's very polarizing, especially when he goes first. I mean, we joked about what happens if the Drukhari go first, and we're like, maybe they kill 1 plane between like the 5 Dark Lancers, because he needs 3 Dark Lancers to go through to kill one of these planes, because they all have -1 damage and chaff launches.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean that is saying that they're out of range of the Trueborn, which should be doable deploying on your back line in Dawn of War. You'd have to really throw the Trueborn out there to try and kill a plane, and then you just lose the Trueborn.
Yeah. Now the averages say that if you get exactly average with 3 Raiders against a single flyer, that their exact averages kill 1 flyer per turn. But obviously that can go either way very quickly. Now we're seeing that 1 Raider has already been killed. It looks like 1 unit of witches, and is that all of the
Incubi? You'd assume some of those. You'd assume some of those are still in transports. You got to say some of those are still in transports, like for sure. But also you see one of the interesting points about Junior's list. He's got 2 bricks of 10 Hellions, and as I thought, the one on the right hand side, they've both been diminished by about half, by the way, because they're just such a good option for all those little stubber shots. And each one of these players just has like 12 throwaway stubber shots. You can just be like bum 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 bum.
And they're just like they're one of the more efficient options. Obviously, for reasons that we can't quite discern, the chaff launcher still reduces damage even in combat with these flyers.
So
I
don't understand.
That's unfortunate, but they are one of the better options because they fly, that they can actually charge and maybe finish off 1 or 2 of these flyers early. So obviously, Matthew knew what he had to do, and he's taking them out and as many of the Raiders as possible turn 1.
Yeah, spot on, brother. Now, it's interesting, though. I want to know which one of these planes is the bomber. And also, I think one of the planes has been taken out already. If I had to guess, if I had to make some assumptions, we only see 3. So that could be that between the 5 of the remaining 6 Raiders that he started the game with, he has managed to knock down one of the Stratoraptors. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the AdMech build. Then, if you wouldn't mind, we'll give you a quick rundown of Junior's list. So... But this is the issue, I have to try and guess which one of the lists that I've pulled up is the right subset of Drukhari and AdMech build. So Junior is the one with all the Hellions. I can scroll down. Yep, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, got the right list. All right, so Mr. Matthew Geyer, who's playing against Junior here, he's got a Mars Veteran Cohort Battalion. Starts off with a Marshal and Manipulus. Of course it does. And it's got 17 Rangers, 5 Rangers, and 20 Vanguard. Then he's got a unit of 8 Ruststalkers and a unit of 7 Ruststalkers. One of those have Tempricordia, of course. 3 single Ballistari Las Cannon Chickens. 2 Stratoraptors. Then he goes into patrol. This one also of Mars. Has to be Veteran Cohort as well. Another Marshal. Another unit of 5 Rangers. 2 units of 5 Cerberus Raiders. A Bomber. And another Stratoraptor. Absolute list of savagery.
I mean, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Now, Junior is bringing to the table, of course, multi-detachment Drukhari. He's got Cult of Strife with two succubuses. I'm assuming, yes, one with precision blows, and of course, one with competitive edge. This stock
Mhm.
trade of amazing succubi. One unit of witches, that's a unit of 10. And then he has another patrol, of course, that's Cabal of the. He's actually running Obsidian Rose. So he's running
Mhm.
the version that rerolls wounds instead of
Yep.
Blackheart, which rerolls hits, which it's I feel that's more like your mileage may vary. It's whatever your choice. Sometimes
It's
the hitting is better than the wounding.
yeah, it's much of a muchness. It's just which is your flavor, really.
Yeah. So then in that detachment, he's got an Archon. He's got one unit of Caballet Trueborn, 2 units of small warriors, probably just to capture objectives early, 2 small units of Incubi, and then 6 Raiders, which is the bulk of the shooting power of the army, I feel. And then he's got one more Cult patrol, which is Cult of the Cursed Blade, which I actually really like, which is native +1 strength. That's a big deal, especially on witches. Means that you can just give them Adrenalite for the +1 attack and not
Yeah.
have to worry about +1 strength. He's got
Yep.
two small units of witches. He's got Drazar. He's got another unit of Incubi, and then of course the two 10-man Hellions, which I think the Hellions are very good, especially with the Viscerating Flyby and the fact that they're so low costed, considering I believe they're 2 wounds now, and
Yes.
with a 2 damage attack that's native AP-1 that can be AP-2 with Blade Masters, they're just very strong in most matchups.
I think they're amazing. I think they're really good, and I'm surprised I don't see more 10-mans. I see plenty of 5-mans here and there, especially Brad Chester usually takes 3 units of 5. I don't think you can go wrong with Hellions. Just put them in your list.
Yeah,
Whatever collaboration you want is good.
I think
We've
the
seen
only reason that sorry, real quick, I think the only reason that we see less 10-mans, and this is the only word that on Grapevine that I've heard, is that they're hard to maneuver with a 10-man because they are
yeah.
large.
Compared to the rest of the list, when the rest of the list is just like 5 or 6 raiders, having these 2 big 10-mans just all of a sudden just starts to expose bits and pieces of your force. Or you feel, behoven to chuck him in reserve, and all of a sudden you're spending CP
Now,
you may not want to spend.
I do think this is the bomber here. I think we're seeing the bomber in the center. I've been looking to try and see the last cannons because the last cannons that you can see like there, they stick out of the back of the Stratoraptor. So I think that one in the center is the bomber. So one Stratoraptor has been destroyed.
Of course, and you would always go the Stratoraptor if you can, because those things with all those las cannons are just going to smash down any and everything. All those raiders. We've had a user Cerberus raiders actually come all the way up the board. You can see them just to the right of the central raider. They've been charged by looks like a unit of Incubi, if I had to guess, and then possibly a unit of Cavalite Warriors as well. Now, to the left of that, we've got Hellions going into what you said is the fuller save, the bomber, and then to the right, we've got the diminished unit of Hellions, just a 5-man going into the Stratoraptor. We talked about that as well. We're like, it just the giving good mileage for all his guns turn 1. It's just something that's so powerful about these flyers. They have like 3 guns each on the Stratoraptors, and against Drukhari, all 3 of those guns have really good targets.
They're all effective. I mean, when most of the army is T3, all of the Cognate Snubbers are going to do great. I mean, obviously, Strength 6 AP-2 is useful pretty much everywhere, and then 2 last cannons let's be clear. Cognis last cannons.
Cognis last cannons.
D3 plus 3 just eat up raiders every day of the week.
Exactly right, dude. But yeah, as it sits now, with the AdMech player going first, I think it sits in his favor. What do we got for secondaries?
So if we can go back to the secondary screen, so Junior, of course, is bringing Herd the Prey, which is almost always a good choice for Drukhari. Raise the Banners, which that's interesting. I mean, you have 3 objectives in your deployment zone, so that's a little bit easier to do.
Exactly.
And then grind them down is that's interesting. I wonder if that was that's the best I can do with what I have remaining choice.
Yeah. Exactly right. Well, so this is the one where you find that people will take. So usually you'll see a 6 objective mission, and then one player will just be like, "Well, I'm just going to get Stranglehold every turn." And this is the mission where everyone just switches that thinking to taking banners. This you just put everybody just puts up 3 banners turn 1, and they're just like, "Well, I'm just going to get 10 points on this, realistically, unless I'm getting tabled." So this is it's just a win less, so to speak, because everyone's got 3 objectives in the deployment zone. Now this is going to be. So this is the issue, So if the AdMech player manages to demech enough of the Drukhari, there's just a 24-inch no fly zone between the 2 armies, which is just such a nice, silly buffer to have between such a potent gun line. That's also putting flyers in your deployment zone. But the other problem is, as soon as you put those flyers in the deployment zone, you give something for all that stuff to do that wasn't going to do anything turn 1. Like if the flyers were on the backfield, just shooting, stubbers, from just behind the first line of defenses, say the service raiders and the chickens, the Hellions have nothing to do this turn.
That's
The
true.
Trueborn, if they survived, have nothing to do this turn.
That's
Like,
true,
there's
but
so
I
many,
think
there's
he's
so many things.
I think he's gauging that the gap here is just long enough, essentially, that if he disables enough of the Hellions and enough of the transports, that nothing
Mm.
essentially can pile out of those transports and make the distance across to get a
Yeah,
charge, even
exactly
with
right.
advance and charge.
Yeah, we he just wants to he just wants to demech the Trueborn, kill them, and then see how many incubi he can get down. Yeah, because being veteran cohort, he's actually not that afraid of like witches in combat. Because he's just his veteran, his vanguard and stuff can just punch witches out in combat really easily.
And to clarify, what we were seeing in the box there. So all of the incubi are still alive. They're still in transports. The only casualties right now are Hellions, a raider, and a group of witches and a group of Kabbalites. So
Exactly right. Now, Valerie, this game is not over by any stretch. This is Drukhari versus AdMech. These guys have tricks, and
yes,
that bag of tricks is as deep as it needs to be. And Junior's made it all the way here. He took a loss. I think it was in round 2 or round 3, and then his loss was an 82. It was an 82-point loss. So the man just gets points.
all
And so
right. So
we'll just see what he's got.
let's hop over to table 2 real quick and see how they're going. Because this is our other Drukhari versus AdMech game, and
Yeah,
it looks like
the Drukhari. Look, there's a bunch of flyers too. Shock and horror. How
I'm wondering.
hilarious!
It looked like one flyer was already off the table, and
Already
this
off the
player
table.
only
Yep.
had 3 flyers. So I'm assuming one Stratoraptor is already dead. I wonder if our man Debeki behind the scenes can tell us if the Drukhari went first in that matchup on table 2.
Well, I'd have
So
to assume they did because there's a raider literally in the AdMech deployment zone. You can see it just there.
Yeah.
So he has made some big ingress in, has no chill, it needs to go. And that's the thing. Against AdMech, you got to get in there, especially if he's got las cannon chickens for things like raiders to tap and then, just shut them down with witches and etc. Get in there. You need to start working early just because they have so many resources. It's absurd.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, we did get confirmation that Drukhari did go first, and he has, like I said, 6 raiders, and on average, exactly average dice says that 3 raiders will pick up 1 flyer per turn. So
Yep.
I'm assuming he invested at least 4 raiders to kill that first flyer. Maybe one of the other 2 is damaged, which if he can get rid of them early, that's a big deal, because as we can see,
Yeah.
one of his to the last is the Kronos here, and
Yep.
the Kronos, as soon as the flyers are gone, are essentially immune to the rest of the army.
Exactly right. We'll give you a quick rundown of those lists. Has he got the old? Are those the old raiders? For some reason they look like the old raiders to me.
No, I think
know.
it's just
Yeah.
because they're very bright.
Yeah, it's just very right. That's fair. My old eyes. Jumping down the AdMech detachment, he's got a battalion again. This one is also Mars. This one is also a veteran cohort. Marshall and a Manipulus. It's almost like they're working to some kind of formula here.
Yes.
Two bricks of Rangers, a small unit of Vanguard, 5 infiltrators, 10 Rust Stalkers, 5 Rust Stalkers, a big fatty unit of 8 Cerberus Raiders, and then 2 5 units of Cerberus Raiders. So he's really going deep on the Cerberus Raiders. 2 Stratoraptors, another, and then we go into the patrol. Same, both these armies, both veteran cohort, both Mars, both battalion and patrol. He's got another Marshal, another unit, a small unit of Vanguard, 2 single las cannon chickens, and the last of his Stratoraptors. Interesting choice. I think it would pay dividends in a Drukhari matchup having a big block of Cerberus Raiders, because first you've got between the sniper abilities they've got, in addition to Wrath of Mars, you can really pop things like Archons who could be very difficult to kill otherwise from range with the 2+ invuln, and succubuses before they get their 4 up in combat from just the other side of the board, really safely.
Yeah, so I think that probably in this matchup, the Stratoraptors obviously doing work is important, but probably in the late game, keeping the Raiders alive as long as possible is very valuable. Now, as far as the Drukhari list is concerned, so we're seeing more of a change a little bit from the last list we saw. So we see Cabal of the Blackheart Patrol. He does have a Court of the Archon with 2 Sliths and 3 Urgles, which is very strong. They all have 5 up, feel no pain. They're very durable. A single Archon, which of course has the Fight Last ability. 1 unit of Kabbalite Trueborn, 2 units of Incubi, and then it looks like he only has 5 Raiders in that detachment, which is interesting. So maybe he has a little less efficiency against those flyers. Then, of course, he has a Cult of Strife attachment with the trademark 2 Succubi, because why wouldn't you? 1 unit of 10 Witches, 2 units of 5 Witches, and then in his fast stack, now he has what you were describing. He has 2 little bombs of Hellions of just units of 5, which is, I guess, more, like I said, more common because they're easier to maneuver and to hide. Because once again, they're large, but they're also high on the board, which means that if they're not behind obscuring, they're easy to see. And then for his last detachment, he has a Dark Technomancer's detachment, that has his 3 Chronos, which, if you're not aware, the Dark Technomancers allows him to get +1 damage and +1 to wound on weapons. So those Chronos' flamers are always going to be damage 2, and then if he rolls 6s to wound, damage 3.
Damage 3. Yep.
And then one last unit of Incubi, a unit of Rax, and Drazar. So, I mean, I actually prefer, I think, this Drukhari list in this matchup again than the previous one that Junior O'Flay is running, because it has the beef, and the Chronos actually, with Dark Technomancers, can shoot those planes down. Damage 3 is a big deal.
Which is really weird that he's brought both those planes over. It looks like to directly invest in those Chronos. I think it's an interesting choice, because it's obvious that that's the target of opportunity he's gone for this turn. And I think he's right though. As soon as he kills them down, his big bricks just really get to go to work with pretty much impunity. I want to know what this. So I see a couple of blue units here and there and everywhere. It's actually going to be quite hard to distinguish what's a blue Drukhari unit or what's a blue AdMech unit. Couldn't we just have gotten like the non-2 blue armies together? That one of them could have swapped and played the other Drukhari army or the other AdMech one. Why does it have to be like this?
Well, I still think this is probably just a Skitarii blob.
It's just a blob, yeah.
Everything's probably still in those Raider. I wonder if that Raider was used as basically like a get into the enemy's lines, maybe tag one of the units that can't immediately be given fallback and shoot, so just be annoying.
Well, if that was me, I'd have 10 OBSEC units in that objective, and knowing what I know, I'd yeet that one out there and be like, well, kill this one in your lines, and I'm going to deploy 10 OBSEC models onto your home objective, or emergency disembark to the left, out of line of sight, and steal that one from you in order to give me the lead. Like I said with this mission, guys, 3 objectives really close or in your deployment zone, everyone just usually trades like a 40 to 40 on the primary. So anytime you can give your opponent anything less than that, which is where I think the Drukhari have strength in this matchup, being able to sling out their units to disrupt their opponent's primary, whereas the AdMech is not always able to do the same, gives them somewhat of an advantage. What have you seen for the secondaries, mate?
So for the secondaries, we're seeing, I'm going to start with Magistrata. We're seeing Raise the Banners, which once again on this mission with 6 objectives that are basically under deployment zone is a given for many armies. And then he, of course, has Grind Them Down, because the Drukhari has a lot of MSU units. That means multiple small units, if you're not aware, which the AdMech excel at eradicating off the board. And then, of course, oh wait, what's Uncharted? Uncharted, is that Uncharted sequencing? Is that the mission specific objective? What is that?
No, I don't believe it is. Let me just have a quick gaze. No, because the mission's Overrun and the secondary is called Overrun. So let me just quickly look at, because it might be one of the unknown or the lesser known AdMech ones. Continue. I'll give you the read of it in a moment.
Okay, so for the Drukhari, for Quentin, he's got Raise the Banners again, which is fairly obvious. Herd the Prey, which again for Drukhari is a pretty easy 10 points usually. And then to the last, which I'm assuming is, if I remember correctly, is Drazar, one of the Archons, and the Chronos. So I think all of those are pretty hard targets. Now, while you're looking up that secondary, if you want, I have some stats with regards to the matchups of the people in the top 8 and what they've fought so far.
Beautiful. Lay it on us.
Okay, so Sean Naden, who's on table 4, of course, which we'll get him in on one of the camera tables next game. He played Necrons in round 1. Okay. So we're getting word from the bosses. We should jump to somebody else first. So we're going to look at our players on this table first. We have Quentin Johnson, the Drukhari. So he was going into the top 8 with 1 loss. He played Drukhari in round 1 and Drukhari in round 2. That's unfortunate.
Just a lucky guy, right?
His only loss actually was in round 3 against one of the sisters who did not make it to the top 8, which is interesting. And then he went against Custodes in round 4, and then double Grey Knights back to back in round 5 and 6. So lots of doubling up for Quentin.
What a gauntlet! So what's that? Two Drukhari, 2 GKs, and a sisters player, and he lost to the sisters.
Yes.
Well done to him. That's great. Yeah. He beat both Drukhari, beat both Grey Knights. That's impressive.
Whereas Joel Wilson, our legend and hopefully Victor, maybe, our Dark Angels player. So he went against Harlequins in round 1, White Scars in round 2, and then Orks, So that's 2 of the Orks players knocked out right there, and then another Grey Knights player in round 5, and then Drukhari, of course, against Sean Naden in round 6. So I think he's actually putting up a pretty good showing. I mean, he's played what I was expecting more of the top 8 players to be having forced against, which is multiple Orc armies, which he did.
Yeah. Well, he's knocked them off. He has knocked them off. Both the two Orc players he played and beat, neither of them made the finals, did they?
No, and then of course we have Matthew Geyer, who is our other AdMech player. He went against Dark Angels in round 1, Orks in round 2, Blood Angels in round 3. That of course is on.
That's table 2.
That is
Yeah,
table 2.
that's table 1.
No,
that's the junior.
That's table
Flehy
1.
game.
Sorry, that is
Yeah.
table 1 going against Junior Flehy. So Blood Angels round 3, Drukhari round 4. That was his one loss going into the top 8 was against Drukhari, which now he's of course stuck against Drukhari again. And then Orks. So he played Orks 3 times.
Wow.
And beat Orks all 3 times,
3
scoring
times.
a 100, a 93, and a 99.
We've been saying all weekend running into this, Orcs are the army that everybody wants to beat. Well, everyone just doesn't want to lose to, or just auto lose to. So everyone has built their armies with some insulation against Orcs. Now, some people are doing that via confidence, like I'm just a confident Drukhari player. I'm just going to win this game, etc., etc. And other players like what is it Joel done with the Joel and what Scott have done,
like with the Dark Angels, yes.
The Dark Angels and the Demons both pair into the Orcs phenomenally well, really, really, really well. It's going to be impressive. Actually, can we switch to that? Can we go and see the Orc versus Demon game? That'd be great.
Yeah, let's go to table 3 real quick, and we'll talk about their record as well.
But just to give you a quick read of that Uncharted sequencing that secondary may not have heard of, it's in the Battlefield Supremacy slot, and it reads as thus: before deployment, assign 1 objective marker to each battle round, and note down on your army roster. An objective marker cannot be assigned more than 1 battle round. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if you control the objective marker assigned to that battle round. Now that makes me think that's what that raider is doing. That raider is full of OBSEC, and he's slung it out there to threaten that, hey, if you kill this raider, 10 OBSEC models get off and they disrupt your Uncharted sequencing. So, and the reason you take that in this objective, this mission, is because you got 3 objectives in your deployment zone, and so you think of it as just being like the easiest 9 points you're going to get, probably, because you couple it with banners, and you're like, well, I score 15 for sitting on my 3 banners every turn, and then I just score 9 for doing the same thing.
It essentially means that you don't have to move. You can just hold tight, which AdMech excels at, because they can let the planes do all of the aggressive action in their opponent's deployment zone, and they'd just be like, I have my 3 objectives. I'm scoring high on secondary. You have to come to me.
So it's really clever positioning by that raider, though. Tapping that terrain piece, threatening to just get out 6 inches away with 1 CP and jump on another objective, or jump out and dogpile onto the central one should he decide to pop it. Really, really quite clever. And if he doesn't pop it, well, you've just deposited like a raider full of guys in his deployment zone and managed to squeak it through without it getting killed. That's hilarious.
So on this Orks table with, of course, Logan and Scott. So Logan, the Orks player, going into just Logan going into the top 8 with a loss, whereas Scott, of course, our legendary demon player, going undefeated into the top 8. So Logan, the Orks, went against Salamanders in round 1, then Deathwatch in round 2, then Grey Knights in round 3. Nothing but Space Marines, it seems, for the first day.
Yeah.
And then Sisters in round 4, and then AdMech his 1 loss in round 5, which is not exactly surprising because AdMech is a nightmare. And then got 100 point on the Scouring in round 6 against Drukhari. That game must have been a blowout for him to get 100 points against Drukhari on the Scouring.
Absolutely nuts. Absolutely
that's crazy.
Nuts. We've just got looks like we're into the bottom of turn 1 for the demon player. Can we just jump to the top down for this table? I just want to see what his movement phase is like, because of course Be'lakor has all the privileges of having every mark of demon. So he's advanced Be'lakor and managed to jump over that terrain piece to be threatening really deep into his opponent's lines early. And of course, like I said, just going beelining straight for that WASBomb. Now, I would like to say he's done what looks to be a decent amount of wounds to both the Lord of Change and to one of the Keepers. But noticing he looks like he didn't put any wounds on Be'lakor. And I thought Be'lakor would be probably going to be number 1. But in addition to that, we saw there's a very weakened unit of demon that's standing in front of the conglomerate of greater demons, and both those units of Nurglings have been deleted.
Yeah, so obviously he got the +2 to hit. So you think that going along your plan, he would have throttled that +2 to hit into Be'lakor to basically get rid of as much of his defenses as possible. But maybe he decided that instead the real problem, especially to these 3 flyers, was instead the Lord of Change, because Be'lakor wanted to go after the WASBomb, which has the invul. So maybe he was just trying to get rid of the Lord of Change as fast as possible if he had the opportunity to do so, and then therefore those planes were going to be fairly unmolested, since all he has left at that point that can kill them really is Be'lakor.
Yeah, really good point.
The Demons player going into this top 8, of course, had 6 undefeated games. He went against Necrons, Orks, and AdMech in day 1, and then went against Drukhari, Orks, and Tyranids. Of course, we saw that game on the top tables yesterday. The forces knocking out the forces of the Hive Mind in the final round. 2 of these games scoring not the highest for a full wins game, but because he, of course, has 6 wins going into the
6 wins, man.
finals,
He's
that kept him alive.
He really is like the feel-good story of the event. Like, no one would have thought Demons had a chance in hell of going this deep
No,
into such a. I mean, legitimately, you take out the. I don't want to say the Dark Angels is an aberration. Well, sorry, apologies. The Dark Angels did take a loss. If you were to
they
call
did take a
any
loss.
lists
Yes.
that would go undefeated in this event, it would be Drukhari, Orks, and AdMech. Maybe Grey Knights.
No.
None of those things would be a demon. You know,
Yeah,
none
well,
of those things.
well, the interesting thing as well is that I think his worst matchup is not Drukhari, but in AdMech because
It's
of
AdMech. Yeah.
because of Vanguard, because of their
Yeah.
ability to bypass the defenses of the greater demons and essentially just do wounds to them. And yet
Exactly.
he only
Yeah.
played one AdMech player in the entire tournament. So we'll have to see how he does if
There you
any
go.
of these AdMech players stay alive in the finals.
Mm.
And he moves on if he's able to actually overcome that, because I
Well-
feel like one blob of 20 of Vanguard is going to eat a keeper a turn.
Exactly right. Pretty much every turn is just going to eat a keeper. It's really rough. And there is one of the things I'm interested to see about Scott in this game. One of the spicy bits about this is that he has 4 things, or 5 things that will kill 5 things a turn. You know, but his opponent Logan has 30 things to kill. You know. Has
Yes.
30 instances of kills that need to be done. But a keeper won't kill 2 buggies, you know? Can't charge and kill 2 buggies in a turn. Maybe it can. Everything going perfectly, maybe it can kill 2 buggies.
It does
exactly
have
5
damage 3 and it has
Yeah.
damage 3 and strength 8. So damage 3 is of course the perfect multiple for most of these buggies.
But yeah, it's still unlikely he kills 2. Very likely he kills 1.5 if you're willing to get those charges off. But you know, after a couple things die, it's really going to be easy for Logan to start spreading out and making it so he can never get double charges. So it's just going to be like, does Scott have enough turns and instances of damage to kill enough stuff to win this game?
Of course,
especially
yeah.
noting that his obsec and his board presence is probably going to be gone next turn.
Yeah, again, this is, I think, one mistake he may have made. Now, granted, he might be playing some 4D chess here that we're not getting the full lowdown, but I would have kept probably most of his troops, or at least his OPSEC sources, and easy freebooter boosts in reserve in order to deny the Orks some early access.
Well, it's an interesting thing he decided to put the Nurglings up so close. So he put the Nurglings up to wall off the Orks from moving too far and moving past the middle section of the board. I would have thought that you wanted them to get close. The earlier they get close, the earlier you get started eating away his resources, because all your stuff's melee.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if maybe the putting the troops up that early was actually bait to try and get the freebooters to commit as much as possible turn 1 and put himself in a advantageous position. Because he knows at this point that he has a -1 to wound on 3 of his monsters, and essentially they're going to be unassailable for most of the Orc forces.
Yep.
And I agree that I think that maybe the keepers can kill 2 buggies a turn, more likely 1 and damage another, but also just tagging those buggies means that they're essentially useless for 1 full turn, and if they stay in combat, then the keepers will just kill them.
I'm really surprised he went for the Lord of Change. It looks like the Lord of Change has taken damage. I mean, in all likelihood, the wounds on the Lord of Change could very well just be because he perils. You know, could just be something innocuous as hell like that.
Well,
But
I was gonna say, one tech, like I was describing before, if he did get the Lord of Change, then suddenly these 3 planes have nothing that can hurt them for that
apart
turn.
from Be'lakor, and it's going to take Be'lakor. Well, Bellacor's got bigger fish to fry. If Bellacor's running around,
he needs to go that way.
Yeah, exactly right. He has to go that way literally for the next 3 turns and pick up as much as he can. He needs to get stuff on home objectives of the Orc players. He needs to disrupt his primary, because the Orc players it's only a matter of time before they disrupt yours. Stuff like the Warbikers are so extremely good at picking up things like Demonettes and Nurglings.
Yeah, now granted,
another huge advance. Like, well done to him. He's rolling really high on the advances. I wonder if he's popped any CP for that privilege.
Well, I mean, we're thinking that a keeper normally has 12 or 14-inch move to base, I believe.
I think it's 14. I want to say it's 14. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I'll check you right now.
I mean, so I think with that distance, a 14 move would probably have gotten him to about there. So maybe only a 3 or a 4 on his advance would have given him enough to essentially get past
unfortunately,
the flyer.
I think that's a mistake by Logan then, because you want to take that. They can all advance and charge, so you want to take that into account. And yeah, if Scott does get turn 1 charges, that's because unfortunately Logan may have not positioned appropriately.
Well, this is, I think, exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of the game, because even making the planes vulnerable to the Infernal Gateway, that maybe he should have just had one plane right there and one plane right there, and not actually had them within 3 inches of each other. We'll have to see if that pays off or not.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see it'll all develop. We will know sooner rather than later if you're correct or incorrect.
Now,
That's
if we
one of
want
the
to
good things
go,
about 40k.
if we want to go to the swivel camera real quick to Sean Naden's table, so we can see Naden versus Joel Wilson, we'll go over their stats so far for the tournament. So Joel Wilson, of course, our Dark Angels player, going into the game with a 1 loss against, of course, Sean Naden in round 6. But otherwise, what he played was Harlequins round 1, White Scars round 2, Orks round 3, Orks round 4. So that's 2 more Orc players, of course, knocked out just by Joel himself. Grey Knights that we saw as well on the cam tables on round 5, and then against the 1 loss against Naden in round 6. I mean, it seems like a lot of these top players encountered a lot of the Orc buggy lists and just wiped them out fairly early on.
Yeah, exactly right.
Whereas Sean Naden, of course, going in undefeated, went against Necrons round 1, Bloody Angels round 2, then AdMech, then AdMech, then AdMech.
Holy crap. Holy crap. Well, he's not tech for AdMech. I mean, he's good into AdMech because, well, it's kind of a much of a muchness, but he's tech to go into buggies.
Yes.
And he hasn't played any buggies. He's played 0 total buggies.
No,
3 AdMech plays, 3 wins.
Yeah.
Impressive.
And getting a 94, a 100, and an 87 against all 3 of those AdMech, I mean, that is very impressive, considering that it seems like he's throttled, as you said, to go after Orcs and less after AdMech. But maybe we're not seeing something that he knows about his army's ability to swamp on AdMech and deny them points.
Exactly right. Now, I'm assuming so. Sean is a guy who techs for his worst matchup and then just reps or outplays his other
Absolutely,
matchups.
yes.
That's definitely been his most operandi for as long as I can remember. I love his very much. He's gone into dad mode. Is the father of a couple of another beautiful baby on the way. And look at him. He's just his stunning 2-piece tracksuit. Beyond compare for style and grace right there.
I mean, I fully agree with this decision because I know the advantages of looking good, but also when you're playing 9 games of Warhammer in a single weekend, you want to be as comfortable as possible. And it is actually, you'll notice we go back to the desk cam, I'm wearing a jacket because it is cold in here. So I don't blame him one bit. As
Fair.
well, he's going into a player that he knows his list can lose to.
Well, exactly right, and this mission is a lot better for Sean than it was. So a lot better for Joel than the last one was. The scouring was horrific for him versus Naden's list.
Brutal.
Yeah, because he can't score any points sitting in his deployment zone. He's got 3 Deathwing bricks. So what's he going to do? He has to leave his deployment zone, contest the board against an 8 Venom, super maneuverable, obsec slinging, punch throwing Drukhari list.
Whereas in this matchup, of course, both of them have 3 objectives in their own deployment zone, which means that we'll get secondaries in a moment, possibly from Demeki, that can tell us if the Dark Angels took their my mind's running blank. The holdback,
the stubborn defiance.
Stubborn defiance.
Yeah. I would not take that verse, Sean. You're just painting a target. I'm like, here, disrupt me here.
He did take stubborn defiance. He does have
it. There you go. Also, the other option is if you put just enough models on the objective, Sean, a 10-man plus his blade guard, so you put the blade guard and a 10-man brick and maybe 1 or 2 characters. Sean can't actually place any models on that objective outside putting him in combat with you. And so you can just force some decisions there. But then all of a sudden you've done the same thing you did last time. You've let Sean have an isolated portion of your army to just double and triple down on, which actually looks like he's doing again, by the way. I can see Deathwing on the left towards the closest of us, and then I just see a huge wall of Drukhari on the right-hand side of the table for Sean. And to see that terrain piece, Sean once again gave himself a beautiful terrain piece just outside his deployment zone to pivot his whole entire army around. If you're playing Sean Naden, pick up the biggest piece of terrain you can and don't let him put it just outside his deployment zone.
100%.
Stage his whole army behind there, and then turn 2, everything in your army gets charged.
Now, we did get the secondaries for the Dark Angels player for Joel Wilson. He's taken Stubborn Defiance, Oath of Moment, and Mental Interrogation. Now, Mental Interrogation I easily understand because he has Ezekiel, and there's no defense against that in Sean Naden's army. So once any of the characters are exposed, he can just hit those easy 3 points every turn. Now, Oath of Moments, that's an odd one because I feel like his plan should be to stay on his 3 objectives and not move. And
from his point of view, he's never going to fall back versus Sean, so that's automatically 5 points in the bank. He has a bunch of Venoms. Every time he kills a Venom, every time he kills one of these characters that Sean is going to be using into him, he gets another point. So it could be just say in his head is like, well, this is just extremely safe 8 points. With an opportunistic 10, opportunistic 12 or 14, should I make it to the middle of the table with something?
Yeah, I would say that he's maybe banking that was the best of the options he had available. That if he starts to get an advantage early, and I mean, realistically, it's hard to with that many Venoms to get one every turn perfectly and not leave enough remaining that you can continue to get the kill a monster or vehicle in your turn to get the oath point. But maybe he's thinking that if he gets an advantage early enough on, that he can then just push to the center of the field and fill out the rest of oath.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, if Sean, so there's always an opportunity. You're playing into Deathwing Terminator bricks. There's always an opportunity you swing and you miss. You chuck in 4 squads, and then they instead of killing the 6 or 7 Terminators, you kill 3 or 4 because a couple of 4-ups went his way. And then all of a sudden, oh wow, I can't do that again because I lost all my incubi. And then he starts rolling you up, getting into your backfield, putting the pressure on you. The only thing that's an issue in this one for him is that with Sean being able to throw things to disrupt his movement and control his pilings and stuff, I can't see any of the Deathwing portion making it to Sean's objectives. So
I don't think so.
His primary is pretty much the safest 40 points ever.
Yeah, and so I think this is going to be a game that plays out in the secondaries because I feel like both of them are basically going to score a guaranteed 40 points on primary unless one army starts overriding the other one very fast.
Well, here's the thing, though. With Sean being able to do those pivots, the Poison Tongue redeploys, and then just being able to essentially move and take his units from one side of the table, put them in another, and then the next turn just funnel down. I think he's the one that's going to be able to disrupt primary. And this is the issue, in this objective mission, when there's 24 inches between objectives, for the Deathwing to just not be able to... The Deathwing just can't close the gap. They can't do it.
No, it's just
Sean
too far.
just gets to stage up and plan a turn where he's going to give his opponent a 10. Or give his opponent a 5. And then that's just going to be the game, I believe.
Yeah,
but
so
I think this will be a lot closer than the last one.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, he definitely has to try and fight back the primary because I feel like if they score the same on the primary, then the advantage might actually be in Joel's favor. Because if you remember, he actually has a perfect unit to use for Oath of Moment in the center of the table to get early, which is the one unit of Blade Guard or split 2 units of Blade Guard.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's just a bad unit for Sean to try and go after and essentially expose any of his own units, just trying to get rid of them.
Because it's an overinvestment. Like, what are you going to put out? You have to use one of your 3 units of Incubi to go and kill it, and then they might still swing and miss. That's forced to wound, always forced to wound. 4-up invulnerable save.
Vulnerables, which are always
exactly right. What, you swing and you miss and you just lose an Incubi to not kill 3 Blade Guard? Don't tell me that's just not a heartbreaker. Like, that's just a gut check. Oh, that sucked. Oh,
and of
man.
course, even with the Poison Tongue getting the 3+ poison, those Blade Guard have 2+ armor saves. There's just nothing that poison's going to do against them.
Yeah, especially if they can tag anything into cover.
I forgot, because they have True Transhuman, the 3+ poison doesn't actually work against them. They only have 4+ poison.
Doesn't even do anything. Exactly right. And
so if you have to commit Incubi, essentially, is the only way.
3 Blade Guard walk up and kill a Venom if you leave them alone as well.
Absolutely. 2 damage power swords with that many attacks each. Absolutely.
Let us hit over. Which game should we go to? Should we go to we should go back to Junior's game. I really want to see what he's done with the bottom of turn 1.
I think we'll pop over to game 1, and then we'll go to game 3 because I want to see what's progressing in the Orks as well. So on game 1 here, it looks like only 2 flyers remain.
Yeah, I'd say we're into the bottom of turn, the top of turn 2, and the AdMech are having their second turn. Looks like another flyer has been taken down. The one to the left of screen looks like it got killed off. Oh no! We may have seen just like a bit of a swiveling of things because there was a unit of Hellions that was in combat with the what we said was the bomber. I think that one's been killed and it's just been replaced by a Stratoraptor.
Yeah, this was likely the Stratoraptor that was over that direction and it just came over this way. But it looks like there's only 3 Raiders remaining, and most of the Drukhari are gone or in their transports, and you can see that the AdMech has taken a dominant position in the center of the field. So there's essentially no points of egress for the Drukhari at this point.
Well, next turn, those Raiders run onto that bottom left-hand objective and just your primary is a bit screwed. As it is this turn, I actually wouldn't be targeting those Raiders in the bottom left because all you're doing is putting just a bunch of obsec that you might not be able to target next turn onto that objective that the Raiders can't account for. So at this point, I think it's pretty firm for the AdMech, and that's just the power of going first with flyers, babies. Like, it's just they just rock up and they're just going to take the game away from you. It's a bit It's a bit disgusting.
Unfortunately,
Putting it out there.
unfortunately, these two armies are throttled so hard by who gets essentially the first turn. Because honestly, I think the Drukhari, if they had gone first, had a good chance to get rid of two, maybe if they got lucky, 3 flyers, or at least damage a third flyer, which would have given the AdMech a little a bit of a sticky situation. Because how do they essentially get out and assault the Drukhari at that point and not give them all of the rule of all engagement? So why don't we move over to table 3 and see how the demons and the orcs are doing?
Look, I think Junior's going to have to put out some absolute star-studded, mega big brain plays to crawl that one back. But let's check it out. So we've got a Keeper of Secrets that's gone into the upper left to pick up a unit of 3 bikers. Be'lakor looks like he's vesting in the Wazbomb. And is the Wazbomb still alive? Well, let's hope not. Let's hope Be'lakor just hasn't attacked yet. Another Keeper of Secrets. See, the one that advanced past to the right-hand side of the middle objective, I don't think it had a very good charge. It was looking like it was bearing down on a 7 or an 8, yeah?
You're talking about the one that I just identified here?
Exactly right there.
You're thinking that it would have charged directly into this Shock Jump Dragster,
maybe?
Yeah.
Because that position, if that's one of the -1 to wound ones, getting it up there is just so much pressure because it would be mirroring the one on the left. And then what are you going to do? You're going to ignore Be'lakor for another turn to try and kill these keepers as they just bear down on your home objectives? What are you going to do?
Now one thing that is confusing, sorry, it looks like the Lord of Change has gone this way instead of going right for the central Dakajet, which
he could have
that's interesting.
Could have just done that with the charge move because it looks like we're in the charge phase. Could have gone into the front, done his smites and whatnot, and then piled over to the left. As it sits right now, it looks like there's a 3 on the back of that, unless that's just the number he has on his dials all the time. So maybe he's taking 3 wounds. Like I said, I'm assuming that's a perils because I'm assuming you'd be insane to shoot anything at that keeper that you don't have to. Although actually, in saying that, it's way better to shoot your Yakajets at the keeper than it is to shoot at the -1 to wound.
You mean the Lord of Change? At the Lord of Change, yes.
Way better to shoot the Dakajets at the Lord of Change than it is the 6s to wound locks, right?
Yeah, well, that's what that's
what we keep this.
Yes.
Gosh damn it!
You got it, Adam. It's fine. We're on day 3.
I'm a sleepy
we're doing
guy.
Great. I mean that's what I was saying earlier. Is I think his best option, or what he maybe thought was his best option, because he had the option to throttle freebooters since there was so many troop units on the board, was to essentially throw everything he had from those Dakajets into the Lord of Change and just try and kill it or bring it down for volume of fire. Because at that point, the only thing that can challenge the planes realistically is Be'lakor, who simply he's going to be on that side of the board. He doesn't want to have to target planes, and the planes can then just at that point go around and pick up all of the troops. But
yeah, exactly right. So question to chat. Thank you guys for all the questions. Really appreciate you guys. The more you guys interact with us, the better our coverage is, I believe at least. And thank you so much for the support. Please go over on Twitch, give us a sub if you so please, especially if you've got a Prime sub sitting there waiting for it to be used. Chuck it over to FLG. Let them know you appreciate the coverage and you like what we do. So the questions in chat. How much damage was dealt by the Lord of Change in the Psychic phase? Demeki, our man on the ground, we'll see if he can get to that for you guys. Next up, how did the keepers advance past the planes? What did you see there, mate?
So, to be clear here, so the roughly the 3 keepers started about in these positions here, and a keeper natively moves 14 inches. They are very fast. Now, none of these got the, I believe it's called the Landstrider Exalted trait, which gives it additional movement. But this distance, because we think maybe the planes were up a little bit too far, essentially that 14-inch move would get them to about there. So, which means you don't need. Sorry, that like about there.
Like a 4-inch advance.
3 to 4.
Yeah,
which is maybe the average. It's the average on a dice roll. So they probably didn't. Maybe they rolled hot on their advances, but they probably didn't need to actually roll that hot in order to get past the planes.
Exactly right. Now I think that just means the planes were 2 inches too close. Because of course, if you are, there's huge bases on those keepers. They have to get a big advance. So if he needed a 4 to get past, if you were 2 inches back, he couldn't have gotten past and had to end 1 inch in front of you. E.g., like you just cost them 2 or 3 inches to move. They would have moved 12 inches instead of moving the 16 to 18 they moved. So possible mistake there by Logan. We'll see how it develops.
Now, we found out from Demeki, our man behind the scenes, that that is possible that the Lord of Change, in fact, did a perils because it only dealt 2 wounds in the psychic phase. Which is very low.
Yes, extremely low.
Now, essentially, though, like here's the thing: is that the Dakajets are useful, but the bottom line is that they are very ineffective against most of these greater demons. Which means that getting any additional damage on them, essentially with the Lord of Change and Be'lakor live, is essentially a bonus. So I don't think they're going to be that. It's possible that they're not that relevant past turn 1, only because most of the demons are able to go straight into the orc lines.
Exactly right. As we see it right now, Be'lakor did go into the Waz bomb and pick it up pretty easily. I'm interested that he kept the Waz bomb. That's what he did with the Waz bomb. If it was me, of course, unfortunately, I actually didn't see where the Waz bomb was deployed. But I was see. You see where the you got the 3 Daka jets, and you see the central ruin that they're placed upon. Directly behind that is where I would have put the Waz bomb. Had I infinite choice about where it flew to, I would have put it there. And then, of course, if the Daka jets were like 1 or 2 inches back from where they were, doing what Logan intended to do, it would have been unchargeable.
Now, okay, so DeBecki is telling us that all the planes were essentially centrally deployed and then fanned out from that position like that. Now, the thing is that you may not know, and I this may need to be checked, but the teleport mega blastas, the teleport blastas on the WAS bomb, are they 24 or 36-inch range?
They're 24. They're 24.
Yeah.
I think it's the smasher guns that are the 36.
So my question is, if he had put the WAS bomb here, would he have had effective range on any of the greater demons in the back line?
That is very true. You're absolutely right.
So if he did want to put it in range of essentially any of the greater demons, then that's exactly in Be'lakor charge range. There's no avoiding it. So, especially since he deployed Be'lakor fairly centrally, so anywhere that the WAS bomb wanted to go and target any of the greater demons, that Be'lakor could literally go in any direction. So
exactly right. And yeah, I was correct. The Mega Blast is the 24. It's the Mega Cannons that are the 36.
36, yeah. So 24 inches is the one of the crushes of the WAS bomb Blastojet, and unfortunately, that is one of the most effective tools that he had to delete these greater demons. So.
Easily his best tool. Now he's just going to be relying on. Well, if I was him, the scrap jets have got to live. Like you run the scrap jets away, keep them across the backboard, scoot them across to the right, and just keep peppering there. Throw away your rucker trucks, throw away your mech guns, get them in the way, slow down these keepers, buy yourself some time. Because, like I said, the keepers can only kill one thing a turn. Unless you let them kill 2 things, and so the onus is on Logan to just slow them down and say, "Hey, here's a buggy if you're eating pleasure, but you're not going to get any more from me. You're just going to get a little morsel every turn."
Now, unfortunately, because Be'lakor has fly and he is also very fast, the only way he essentially can stop Be'lakor from having whatever he wants is essentially to clog any avenue of egress with bodies. Whereas the Keeper, all you need to do is block one gap essentially with a single model, and then you're fine.
Yeah, look what he's doing right now. He is blocking those lanes of ingress. One shock jump dragster going to block the rightmost keeper. Now this is the mistake. Oh no, he's using the shock jump. He's using the scrap
mega
jets
tracks. He's putting both scrap jets up front. I
would have thought those would be the things he needs to. There we go. He's pulling one back. He's pulling one back to the right of the back of the board. Perfectly thought out, Logan. Well done. Because you need them alive. They're like your best damage source now that the WAS bomb is dead.
Yeah, with the WAS bomb gone, that's literally the only chance he has to get rid of any of these Keeper's secrets. So why don't we jump over we're at table 2. We haven't been in a while.
I would like to say Scott is leaving himself a little bit open. He hasn't left anything dangerous on his back lines. Those 3 Daka jets, if they can all stay on the board with their 20-inch move, should be able to pick up all the stuff that's on Scott's home objectives and give Scott a donut in his primary next turn, which I think is the risk and that Scott plays. Yeah, he can't die, but he's only got 5 things that can't die. Everything else can get picked up in short order.
But the one thing that I think that maybe he's trying to do is that could be interesting is that he knows that the Flyers essentially can't score anything, so maybe he's just trying to get all of the Orks' home objectives and just do a full swap.
Well, dude, exactly right. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to get to the crux point of the game where you've killed a bunch of buggies, and what you need to keep Be'lakor on an objective. Cool. Well, that's a thing that Logan wants to make him. That's a decision Logan needs to make him make.
Yeah.
Things like the bikes. They're just buzzboxing down to the bottom right-hand corner. They're going to be supported by 1 or 2 Daka jets to pick up things like these beasts, these demonettes. He's going to essentially have a deployment zone with nothing in it soon.
Yeah, so the demons might run into a problem where they just simply don't have enough assets to get enough board presence with a 6 objective mission. So he's going to have to decide what to do. So why don't we jump over to table 2 and see how they're progressing in that Drukhari versus AdMech game? Because in that game, the Drukhari went first. So Drukhari had more of a chance.
This is the mirror, yeah. So we got one game where the Drukhari went first and one game where the AdMech went first. And I'm interested to know if this holds true. Like, if the Drukhari go first and lose, and then in this game, and the AdMech go first and lose in that game, is the Fly AdMech build just superior to Drukhari? I think it could be. That is my gut feeling is that it is superior.
Here's another interesting thing too that we're seeing up here. That a reason why I prefer this Drukhari list to the other Drukhari list is Kronos. You may not know also fly, which means that they can charge.
I really don't know why he put them there, because nothing else in the army could have charged them, and so he literally just put the 2 flies next to the only thing in the army that could do them any damage in combat.
Exactly. It's a confusing choice. Well,
Yeah,
I'm wondering because we know that he only had Stratoraptors. Maybe he was hoping because there's such a threat, and the Kronos are one of the to the
he
last
could
that he
nuke him.
could have just nuked them very quickly out of the game, or at least kill two of them, which would have been a big deal. Because then the third one
Yeah.
is extremely vulnerable and less
Mm.
effective in all forms of combat.
So you're
But it
absolutely
looks
right.
like
Maybe
he
he
didn't get
just
either of
bounced.
them. He didn't get
Mm.
any of the Kronos. It looks like in his shooting phase. So
I would love to see what is on the left side of that middle left ruin. Did he put, yeah, right there, right above where that arrow is, there's some blue models.
it
And it looks
looks
like a
like
different blue
this
than
is
the
just.
AdMech blue.
Yeah, it
It
looks like
is.
okay.
It
So
is. He did
there
it.
are some there is looks like one unit of 5 Rangers or Vanguard here, and then two little Drukhari units here. Because as we
Clever
see that
sausage.
there's no longer a raider there. So
Such a good
um,
play. Such a good play by Quinton. Post up with that raider. Give yourself options and force your opponent to body block that raider getting onto that objective, which we assume is the uncharted sequencing. She's like, it's turn one. I'll hold the easiest to hold objective in my deployment zone, and then
yeah.
be like, you popped it. 6 hits disembark. I'm going to take away 5 primary points onto your left hand home objective, and yeah, could be a huge swing right there.
Also, obviously, if he was able to kill any of the units in the bottom left, now giving him the option to, he was more focused on getting this, sneaking away with this objective, of course. But if
Mm,
he managed to have a unit over here that could deal with that 5 man unit, that's another point for Herd the Prey, which is a big deal because how does
yes.
the AdMech at that point? Most of their movement is over on this side of the table. So how do they sweep
Mm.
around and essentially get to those assets? It's very difficult.
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to do? You're going to throw out one of your units of Rust Stalkers or Infiltrators and just have it picked up by Kronos next turn, and just like another freebie kill here and there and everywhere. I think the Drukhari's playing this really well, but we'll actually we'll see if it matters. There's so much power in this AdMech build.
Yo, I'm wondering. I'm almost worried because he committed so much to try and kill the Kronos early, and it seems like he did very little damage to them.
Yeah,
If the Kronos at
if
this
any.
point can, if like, say he manages to take a huge chunk out of the Vanguard, which of course would be the biggest threat to the Kronos at this point, what if they are able to just sweep down to the center and just start
Dominate the
going
board.
through
Yeah,
the
exactly right.
AdMech army?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, he's very low on raiders. He's only got 2 left, and he's likely to have none left and be stranded in his deployment zone next turn. So those Kronos need to start dominating the board if he's going to wrestle back the momentum here. Because as it sits right now, the AdMech is just going to clear their deployment zone and possibly completely demech in this turn. And if that's the case, that advanced charge doesn't look anywhere near as good if it's not disembarking from a transport.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, the center of the table in this one as well, there is a relatively large gap. There's about a probably 12 to 15-inch gap for most of the center of the board, which, I mean, listen, Drukhari are very quick, and likely if
Yes.
they're in
Yeah.
this position, they could make any charge on that side of the board. But the bottom line is if any of them are stranded in the center there, then it's going to be a bad time because the AdMech are just going to pick them up in the shooting
Mm.
phase very easily.
Now, one of the good things here is that like you said, you pointed out Herd the Prey is a factor in this game, and he's very likely to max that, like very likely. Right now he has the AdMech contained into essentially 1/4 of the table. They've only got a slight ingress into the left-hand side of the board with a very small squad on the left-hand objective. That would be my target of opportunity for the Drukhari. I'd be trying constantly to sling a unit down to there, just keeping his opponent off as much of the primary as possible. If you can just get 115, give your opponent 1-5, like I said, in this mission, that can be enough. Knowing that both players have, especially with Herd the Prey, raise the banners, things like that, to the last, it's very easy to get a lot of points not leaving your deployment zone.
Yeah, so it looks like right now we're going to get a points update on this table, but so far Quentin is scoring very well for primary and secondary. Why don't we jump over to table 3 and see how it's progressing with the Orks and Demons?
Yeah, no, we're actually going to head over to Junior's game and just
Yeah,
see
table
what he's managed to
1.
do in his. Well, he's going to be going into the bottom of turn 2 very shortly. Junior could be getting tabled, or he could be doing some Master Stroke big brain goodness, and we could have much more of a game going. As you can see there, flies are all gone. All the flies are gone. Well done to Junior. He's picked them up. He's secured his backlines, and looks like he's just trying to get a couple of charges here and there. Yeah, it looks like he's going for a charge on a unit of Raiders into the bottom right objective. Now, what you really want to hear is to get some wraps, get some traps,
Yes.
get some wishes into combat, and start just slowing down some of the shooting power this unit has. You see a unit of Hellions right in the dead middle of the table. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that position. You know why? Because you get to charge the Cerberus Raiders to the left of you and gut check, see if he's going to drop 2 CP to run away, and then you still get to charge whatever you want after that.
Yeah, and that's important too because he needs to take some kind of central position. Otherwise, the AdMech are essentially just going to control this. And even though he has 3 raiders remaining, any of those characters outside of the raiders suddenly become a seriously easy target for any of the Cerberus raiders to just pick up. Because as tough as they are, I mean, when you throttle Wrath of Mars with their native 6s to do mortal wounds, that even will go through a 2+ Shadowfield Archon fairly easily.
Exactly right.
All right,
Yeah,
so
beautiful. All right.
it looks like we're going to see if Junior decides to stay in position or decides to move up with these raiders at all, or just hold his home objectives and try and get a central position, and see if the AdMech gets more aggressive.
Well, so the Raiders are pretty safe right now. The Stratoraptors have been picked up. They're not going to get huge amount of issues as long as they're not able to be seen by las cannon chickens. So I think you can just stage up here, secure his deployment zone, and just start harassing anything the AdMech player puts in the middle. I would note that block of 20 guys looks like it has every buff known to man on it.
Yes.
It's got like four counters there.
If
this is
probably
transhuman with extra cover, ignoring Wrens and doing whatever it wants. So tying that up is probably a good point. It's probably a good thing. All right, we're going to hit a transition, head over to the Orks and Demons. Okay. We are checking the score on Sean Naden now, so we're going to see where things are sitting. Yeah, no, the score isn't up, mate. Where is it? Chop chop. Get it together.
So we're seeing. I mean, that's to be expected that Sean's taking an early lead because he's got the advantage on both assessing primary, and his secondaries are very easy to score because the Dark Angels essentially has no momentum. Now, granted, a lot of the scoring for the Dark Angels goes into the latter half of the game, so
yeah, exactly right.
That could shift very easily unless Sean is able to keep him off of one of his home objectives. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Well, looking for primary there, 10 for Joel so far. Of course, holding 2 objectives is quite easy for him, and 10 to score for primary as well, so for Sean as well. So I think that's doing quite well so far. For to not have given Sean a 15 is my assumption. Now, it's interesting that there's 3 home objectives for Sean, so he's beholden to actually leave a couple of things at home. One of those will be his Venom, which will have all his While We Stand We Fight inside them, and it's so revolting that he gets to use that against Joel again.
But those are also very good assets against specifically 30 Terminators, so it's unfortunate he has to hold them back.
But it's just 15 points in the bank that he can't never get. So what Sean does, by the way, he throttles the 90-point cost in his list. He has Drazar, who's blown out on the cost, and then he has 90-point Archons and 90-point Venoms. And so then he can pick which of his 2 Archons he needs to use in that game, but the other one gets a While We Stand We Fight, and any one of his Venoms can just be to the last. Puts Drazar and that Archon in the Venom and just puts it on his objective in his backline, and there's just 15 points just goes into the bank.
I have been told by Demeki, Joel we only have about an hour and 20 minutes left in the round. Joel has about 50 minutes left on his clock, but Sean Naden is below 30 minutes. He's at around 25 minutes left, which means he's going to have to hustle with again, because Joel really scores in the latter half of the game, and if Sean clocks out, then he's going to run away with it.
It's a great point. Part of me thinks Joel may have wanted to go for While We Stand We Fight himself, or to the last on his 3 blocks. And just try and keep all 3 safe. And just, actually, no, it's not. It's not a winning strategy. Apologies. It's a strategy for getting a bunch of points. It's not a strategy for winning this game. Mind you, I don't know if there is I'm trying to think of a strategy that Joel has to win this game.
No,
I really do not like that
matchup. I'm not sure about Oath. That might end up being payback in the latter half of the game, but I feel like for the most part, he just wants to sit with his 3 Terminator units on home objectives. So why don't we move over to table 3 and see how the Demons and Orcs are progressing? Because there's a lot of action happening in both deployment zones.
Well, this is the one. This is the game that I feel like's in the balance. I feel like all our 3 Drukhari and the AdMech and Drukhari games could just at any point flip and just go one way and continue going that one way, as we saw with the junior game. Flip to the AdMech way, and it's probably just going to go their way.
It looks like these Demonettes are the only ones left alive. It looks like both Beasts of Nurgles are dead. All of the rest of the Demonettes are dead, and all of the Nurglings are dead. So
I can see one Beast of Nurgle on the right-hand objective, home objective for the Demons, but that objective has 3 bikes on it. So those 3 bikes just hold that on him. Mind you, that Beast of Nurgle, I don't know if I hope he knows that Beast of Nurgle has heroic intervention, because that's what's going to happen. But mind you, I don't know if you want to do that, because the bikes can just kill that Beast of Nurgle as well as the Beast of Nurgle doing damage
Now,
to the
yeah,
bikes.
now the bikes are, except for maybe the knob, the bikes are only strength 4, so they are fairly ineffective against the Beast of Nurgle. But I think what we're going to see on the Demons next turn is we're going to see this Keeper likely swing all the way this way. We're going to see the Lord of Change go straight up the middle, and then we're going to see Be'lakor and the other Keeper. Well,
So,
this Keeper may be stuck here in the center, in the central objective at this point. But Be'lakor, essentially, he's got ample room to go in any direction he pleases.
well, I think the lock is in a tough spot. The Lord of Change is in a tough spot. I mean, the keeper obviously doesn't stay there. Gets out of dodge. In fact, I think if I am Scott, the keeper goes to the right, clears up those bikes, and starts pushing up all the way up the right flank. Because as it says, there's a huge, strong conglomeration in the top left-hand side of the table for Logan. So just putting one keeper on the right side, pushing up that flank, killing, getting to those mech guns, it's going to be really hard for him to account for. What's he going to do? He's going to turn around his scrap jets that are facing down, being battered down upon by Be'lakor and another keeper to go and kill a third keeper on the right hand side. It's just not going to happen.
No, now Scott unfortunately has to start getting advantage though, because there are still so many orc units remaining that he has to, I think, pick up 2 bugs a turn with each one of his greater demons if possible, or he's just not going to be able to last long enough.
Just doesn't have enough time to kill all the stuff because there's just so much stuff. The other thing is, I was saying that lock is in a tough spot because I think that lock needs to stay in the deployment zone and play defense.
Well, granted, it can just go and sit on this objective and essentially hold that objective for the rest of the game. So that is possible. Or it could go on the central objective and keep it there.
Well, that's where I thought I might want it. You might want to go into the central objectives because then you've got smite options and charge options into 2 planes, depending on which one. If you smite one all the way down, so be it. Charge into another one. Knock another one down and just start, maybe then if you kill another Dakajet, maybe some demons survive and you're able to hold 2 objectives. That sits right now. That Beast of Nurgle goes down on the right. You're left having to put 2 greater demons on 2 of your home objectives in order to get any primary points.
Now, the last thing we'll say about this table before we jump over to table 1, the one advantage that the Demonettes have is that both of these Dakajets cannot target those Demonettes next turn because they will have to fly off the board or go in a direction where they can't see them. So let's hop over to table 1 because there's been a huge scrum in the center of that table. It looks like Junior's
just had to go
rushed everything that he could. It looks like there are witches, incubi, and
beautiful.
Perhaps the Hellions. Oh, the Hellions have moved up here.
Hellions went deep. They went after the Rust Stalkers. Guys, Hellions versus Rust Stalkers. That's where you want to be. Those
2 damage.
2 damage -1, so you're not wasting a lot of rend because they've got a 5 invulnerable save. It's the beautiful place to be. Hellions into Rust Stalkers. Mwah, good job, Junior.
Now, hopefully, he'll be able to.
Well, I'd say you don't want to pick them up. You don't want to pick all of them up. You want to pick up, 18 out of 20. Lock down the last 2. Exactly. Lock down the last 2 with shard nets or a trap and a wrap. And then, don't get shot to absolute hell. Because that's essentially the last bastion of strength for Junior's army. And should all those incubi get picked up, he has no killing power left. Now, he's gonna get countercharged by a big unit of Rust Stalkers. And the hope is there that the Rust Stalkers just can't base and kill all the squads. Spot on. And them fight last. Exactly right. Well, they'll still get to fight first in that exchange, but maybe, if they don't fight last, one of the units, one of the incubi units gets to swing first, and that's a huge deal. Even the witches just taking 2 or 3 guys out of the squad would be a huge deal. Hello, you can still hear the Aussie. The handsome one is still here. It's all good. So, for those who don't know the names, I'm Adam Camilleri, and I'm joined by the other gentleman, the not Adam, which his name is Andrew the Elephant Dickinger. Please make that stick because he never forgets. He's a man of long memory. Now, this is an interesting game for a lot of reasons, but we're not going to stick here. We're going to hit a transition over to our other AdMech and Drukhari game because there was something there that someone pointed out that I want to draw attention to. Can we hit the transition, please? Yeah. So over here, I forgot that the AdMech player Matt took Raise the Banners. And so in addition, remember what he did with that Raider? That Raider, by doing that 6th edition bark, also jumped onto the bottom left-hand objective and pulled down a banner, guys. Actually a huge play. So even if he couldn't, it was such a premium such a premium play to do because he was he was just going to take points away either way. He was going to get on his middle one, pull down a banner there, and disrupt what I believe is the Uncharted sequencing objective, or go on the left hand side, pull down a banner, and deny some primary there. So beautiful play there. Really, really, really inspired by Quinton. As it sits right now, I believe we're into the bottom of turn 3. I went to turn 3 already. Wow, these guys are getting a beautiful pace going. So sitting on the score right now, Quinton is running away with the primary as it sits. 20 points, 6 on the prey, 15 sitting into the last as it sits right now. Really, like almost a masterful display as it sits right now. And the AdMech looking really, really contained. They need to break out, spread out, start taking some of this board, use all the amazing firepower pieces they have to get lines of fire on some of these more deadly stuff. If he had a big unit of Vanguard, I'd really hope that's not a unit of Incubi about to go into them because he needs those in order to account for the Chronos, I believe. Otherwise, those Chronos are just going to get on their bike, do whatever they want. I'm worried about his ability to kill the Stratoraptors now. With only 2 Raiders left, and both Andrew and I ran the math a couple of times, you need 4 to 5 Raiders to kill one of these Stratoraptors because, of course, they're -1 to hit, so hit them on 4s. And then you need 3 wounds to go through to kill one because all had the -1 damage from chaff launches. So even if you roll 5s and 6s on the D3 plus 3s, that will only just kill them with the 10 damage. So you need like 3 Dark Lancers to go through to guarantee you kill one of them. I'm just happy to say, yeah, with all the rules that Stratoraptors have, at least they don't have an invuln, because that would just be absolutely bonkers. In the chat, any questions you guys want to see us answered, or any particular games you want to see us comment upon, we'll definitely do our best to give you guys the service you deserve. So definitely, as Andrew can't hear, I've just been talking into the void. That's good to know. Cheddar Goblin, the Warpsmiths broke the stream. Cheddar Goblin, that is a great name. Nick Hayes joining us again. Thank you so much for coming back, man, and joining us for another stream. You're with us most of the day yesterday. Much appreciated. Some really great comments and discussion. Iliad joining us. Magnificent book. Read it when I was 14. Read it again when I was 17. Never read it again. it was that good. Not as good as Moby Dick, though. I only read Moby Dick once. Never again. Anybody who wants to read that book, read the first 3 chapters and the last 2. Do not worry about anything else. You'll get all the story. Nothing will be missed. He enjoyed Hardtack again, and then he enjoyed Hardtack again and stood in the crow's nest. That's a rough trot. These Chronos coming out for the back line, they're going to go exactly where I thought they'd go. If they can get onto that bottom left objective, there's really no way. There's really no way for Matt to come and dig them out effectively. You'd have to trade pretty hellaciously in there, and without it being able to ignore Overwatch, literally anything it tries to charge in there will just be wounded on 2s and absolutely smoked with that flat 2 damage. Because like you think about stuff like Infiltrators and Ruststalkers, which you think would be the thing that you'd want to go in there, they just don't make it in because you've got 3 Flamers. 3d6 into those, wounding them on 2s with flat 2 damage, they get absolutely cooked. So it looks like we've got a unit of Incubi that are lining up a charge into the conglomerate of units in the middle central objective by Quinton. Now, what the whole purpose of this is by Matt is to just keep the AdMech contained. Keep them where you want them. Because right now, like literally, Quinton might be losing a lot of assets, but he's running the board. He's dominating the table and he's scoring way more points. 59 to 10, guys. 59 to 10. Absolutely indomitable. We're going to jump over here to transition over to the Orc and Demon game. I really want to see what happens if anything damage-wise comes through for the Orcs in their top of turn 2 shooting phase. With that transition, please, my man in the booth, top down if you'd so like. Okay. It's called an establishing shot, apparently. Apparently, I need to show some respect to the booth. Too demanding, like a diva. Baby's gonna shine. You guys still hear me? You guys still see me? No issues there? Because I think I've lost vision of the tables. So the the duck the the duck monkeys are putting things together over here. Now this is a really interesting demon list, by the way. I don't know if we unpacked the demon list for you guys. This is Scott LaFontaine. He is like the heartthrob of the event, the dream of the demon army going the distance. Literally chaos having so few representation. And just really no one playing them at the moment, thinking that there's not much power there outside of Death Guard being a kind of a perpetual evergreen faction that always kind of does well or does okay, but never quite makes podiums. And T-Sun's still being unpacked. People trying to get their head around what works and doesn't work. But this gentleman, Scott, he has a battalion detachment of Chaos Undivided. He's got Bellicor, an unkillable order change, as you could expect in corporeal form. And all the good stuff, Impossible Robe, Aura of Mutability, a Poxbringer with Fleshy Abundance and a Smite just to do some stuff. 3 units of 3 Nurglings, 2 single beasts of Nurgle. I am such a big fan of single beasts of Nurgle, guys. They are such a problem for your opponent to kind of quantify, especially when you're taking a monster match list where you're going to not shoot your Cognis Las cannons at the keepers to shoot them at a beast of Nurgle, and you still might fail to kill them. It's pretty hilarious for 35 points. Jumping down his second battalion, this one is purely of Slaanesh. 3 Keepers of Secrets, all with exalted traits, which he rolled up. We know for a fact 2 of these got the -1 to be wounded trait, which is the premium one you want in this one. Of course, if you could get the -1 to wound and the 4+ invulnerable save, 2 of these have a preventive Slaanesh for a 6-up feel no pain in addition. They'd be nigh unkillable in this matchup if they had all 3 of those buffs. As it sits right now, they're just unkillable from range. So, it is still pretty rough for the Orks, just because most of their profiles are not strength 8 or strength 7 even. So much strength 5 that goes to winning on 6s, which is a bit rough. 3 units of 10 demonettes, and then a unit of 2 fiends to kind of lock some stuff in combat. I like this army. I wish it had a unit or 2 of furies for my personal taste, and possibly that's what I'd do with the fiends. Drop the fiends for the furies, but it's just insulating, so you always get a good score. But that's really all it is there. They hear me and they see the table. It's me that can't see the table, unfortunately, but it's okay. Don't need any of that. So apparently we're hearing from Nick Hayes that one of the Keepers of Secrets is dead. You able to tell me which one of those was? Was the one on the right, one on the left, one that was standing next to Be'lakor? And a buggy got eaten by Be'lakor. That is pretty much par for the course. If Be'lakor touches anything in this Orc army, he will eat it. Absolutely anything. Hell, if Be'lakor touches like 90% of things in the game, the dude is just going to eat it. Have you got more wounds than he can deal damage? Then that's when you're safe. That's really the only way. And back into this, I feel like Scott is going to run into some trouble later into this game. I talked about the polarity of Ninth Edition being just having enough stuff to go the distance. It's such a killy edition where everything just kills everything. Just having enough instances of stuff. I talk about this being, people talk about, there's no horde meta anymore. There's no horde models things. But so you got to change your thinking. It's not horde meta. It's a horde of units, a horde of MSU. Gives you that same power as a horde would in this edition, because you just stretch. Can you guys hear Andrew? He just talked. Because you stretch your opponent's ability to kill enough stuff every turn in order to win the game. This is why Drukhari is so good and has gone the distance and has maintained their power. And I think they're going to maintain their power even if they take like a 10%, 15% points hike, because they just have enough stuff. Sisters can do the same. Orcs can do the same should they go a different build. Or even this build, in some intents and purposes, just has so many instances of damage that you need to deal that it's impossible for them not to get a good score. And then all of a sudden, give yourself opportunities to win games if you're starting from that position. In the chat, still can't hear Andrew, no problems. Lord of Chain moved to the bottom left objective. Midboard Keeper of Secrets got by scrap jets. That's what we thought the scrap jets might be. It has the best amount of profiles on it right now to kill things like keepers, because they're the only thing that has a decent density of strength 8. Andrew, please confirm if you can hear Andrew, guys. That will be greatly appreciated. As it sits right now, look, Scott's got all the killing power. All the killing power is in Scott's way. And whereas I feel like the Orc player, what's his name? Goddamn, I'm not doing him justice. Noel needs to just chip away. No, it's not Noel. It's not Noel. Yeah. No. He's just got to chip away. Pick a target opportunity and then just try and eat it away. Sometimes even over 2 turns, you've got to hold your nerve. Make sure you do the damage. I just don't know how he kills Be'lakor. And I'm not sure that's enough. I think just one empowered, super strength Be'lakor does not win this game by himself, but he's a problem. The dude's a problem literally everywhere he goes, and is very, very, very hard to account for. Logan is the Orc. Why do I think Noel? It's Joel is the Dark Angels player. I apologize, guys. It is very early for me, and this is day 3. I'm not the crisp Adam Camilleri you've learned to love and enjoy. Exactly right. On the chart, he does have a good density of mortals. That's Fire Drake 22 in chat. If he gets enough of the mortal wounds in range, I think is it the Dragster that does some and the Scrapjet does some on the charge. I know the Orc, the Squig Buggies don't do any of the charge, do they? Unless there's a strat I'm not aware of. Yeah, Nick H, the board state is overwhelming for the Orcs right now. Like, the Orcs are just going to lose models every turn, but they're just going to have stuff to score points every turn is the thing, which is why me and Andrew were a bit quizzical about why Scott deployed everything. He deployed all his Nurglings, deployed all his Demonettes. I would have thought he'd love to have like some Demonettes walking in from the backboard onto that central objective this turn and next turn.
Can you hear me, chat? Hello.
Hello. Can you hear Andrew? From Greedy Hammer, do you just lose if going second against triple flyer comps? Some, yes, unfortunately. The Stratoraptors and the
Awesome,
Daka
awesome.
Jets, you can just lose going second, unfortunately. Andrew, welcome back. How was your little break?
There's some ghost in the machine causing a whole bunch of mayhem, but now it seems to have been solved, at least for now, and good job keeping it up. Yeah, and I 100% agree. As far as the aggressiveness with the orcs versus demons, he just has so many assets. That was my
Yeah, he
one worry
does.
with the Arc army, is that the demons literally wouldn't have enough turns to kill enough of the orc assets to actually make an impact, especially on primary, because I feel like that
Yeah.
game is going to be decided in primary.
Exactly, my man. And this one is so important for Prime. It's so important to equalize the Prime with your opponent. But the Orcs just have so much power to sling down, especially after the Daka just pick up all the little obsec units. So just sling down and just disrupt. As it sits right now, I think Scott got a donut on his first turn for primary, on his turn 2, which is a huge problem. And it looks like he's only possibly getting a 5 in the next one. So he's doing the right thing though. He's cleaning up his deployment zone. One of the keepers has gone to the right to clean up the bikes, as I thought it probably should. And then it's hopefully just shoots up that side of the board and slings from this objective onto his opponent's home objective to not only disrupt that score, but then start doing the
Now,
same thing.
I only see one keeper. Are the other two keepers dead?
Yes. That is what it looks like. One keeper went down to shooting, and looks like possibly another keeper went down to combat. And so this is a rough for Scott. This is what I thought. Yeah, Scott has these big chunky units, but if just a little bit above average by Logan on the shooting phase, he can just wear these things down. It might take a turn or two, but he will kill them.
Well, I think that's the one problem that we had, and we were predicting that it might have been throttled the orcs a little too hard. Is that giving him all of the orcs, all of these MS units, proc the advantage of freebooters every turn, essentially means that even though he's not wounding well against these keepers of secrets, he can
Yeah.
hit them with just so much.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the keepers just on average have a 3+ base armor save, which means that going to a 4 with the AP-1 from Speedwalk, and so you just hit them with enough wounds, and it eventually will go through. And as we know, even a scrapjet has 20 attacks or 20 shots just
20
from
shots.
its 2
Yeah.
twin big shooters. So I mean, the volume is there. And then I'm assuming if you maybe got hot with either one of the shock jump dragstas or any of the scrapjets with regards to the missiles, any of that multi damage going through is enough to essentially chunk it away.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, I do think the lock is all but unkillable. I think Be'lakor is bordering on unkillable. Now, with
Yes.
with two of the keepers dead, does that just mean 5 is why? Most likely 5 is why we stand is gone as well, or do we think this last keeper is one of them?
I believe that this last keeper here is one of the ones of this while we stand that he still has. Now the problem though is that he, with 2 of the keepers of secrets gone and most of his troops gone in the second turn, I don't know if he simply will have any kind of board presence to get primary ever again.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, he's never going to get a 15. Like, it's just the opportunity for any 15s is gone. It's just whether he gets 5s, 10s, or donuts. And unfortunately, he's gotten 1 donut. If he gets a second, this game is unfortunately pretty much all but over. Because, like I said, there's just too much stuff. Like, you look at how much stuff he's killed. He's probably killed like 4 or 5 buggies and a plane by now, and it just hasn't made a dent. The
No.
dude's got he's still got 10 and 3.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say
let's-
about this table is, unfortunately, remember, this is a hold 2, hold 3, everybody. So essentially, even with the demons having 3 greater demons remaining, then they won't be getting any points, even with just maybe a 5 from holding 2.
Exactly right. That's one of the savage things about this one, because it is a hold 2. As soon as you disrupt your opponent once and give them a donut, unless they can do the same to you, you kind of cook the game. The game's kind of yours to lose at that point. It's not saying it can't be lost. Like we saw what's been happening with Quinton. That's all he's been doing. He's like, you're going to shred me. You're going to kill so much of my army.
Yeah.
I'm just going to wreck your primary every turn, and I'm just going to win.
So on table
give
1,
us
Junior.
give us a score breakdown, mate.
So right now, Junior is scoring. He's only scored 5 on primary, and it seems that so far he's got no Herd the Prey and only 1 raised banners. Which, if that's accurate, man, he had a really hard first turn. Now, granted, do the flyers affect Herd the Prey if they are
No,
in
they do not.
zones? They don't.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
do
think
not.
so. So that's,
But
I
if
don't
you-
know how he would have only scored, or he wouldn't have scored any Herd the Prey turn
Yeah.
1. That seems
Well,
odd.
he should have scored 2 points. When I was looking at the game, I saw him shoot down a unit of 5 Cerberus Raiders. In fact, there's still 1 left. If you'll see, there's 1 Cerberus Raider in the bottom right hand corner.
I see.
On that
Yes.
objective. Yeah, that was put down there to stop him putting banners up and to disrupt hurt the prey. And I can't believe the bastard's still alive. That is so frustrating, probably. And if
Well,
you
you think
look,
about how many assets that Junior had lost turn one. Like he can only invest in so many directions, and they are
exactly,
still a 5-up invulnerable save with 2 wounds apiece. So you can't just like throw a throwaway
yeah.
unit to get rid of them.
Yeah, they won't just disappear. As I predicted, that unit of service raiders that was posting up behind the blocks has done a nice fatty move in advance and is going to be straddling Junior's 2 home objectives in order either to give him a donut on primary, and that would almost cause this game to be over, and to pull down banners, depending if he can, pop a couple of things here and there and everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, if he manages, all he has to do realistically is.
Did he not move them? Did he move them back?
Uh,
I think this table cam's froze, by the way. The top down is frozen.
the top down is frozen for table 1.
Yeah. Get us that good old Zoomy, because did he move him and move him back into perfectly exactly the same position they were? I highly doubt it.
No, so him going down to that bottom left objective, remember, there was only like a couple raiders there with units inside. So he essentially only needs to touch in with 3 or even 2 of the Cerberus raiders just to deny it.
Exactly. Yeah, spot on, mate. And of course, then it'll be holding Junior to a 5. Look, I think Junior's pretty cooked. Unfortunately, we've got some reserves coming in the bottom left. That'll be his unit of 5 infiltrators walking on the side of the board. They'll be there just to deny herd again. So he'll just deny herd the prey again. The unit of raiders in his deployment zone deploying on that side, and this one's denying here. What are you going to do? You got to turn around assets from the meat and potatoes going into the jaws of this AdMech list to go and kill 5 infiltrators? No. They're just going to deny the points.
And I didn't think about this in advance, but with the amount of small MSU units that the AdMech have and going first, all he had to do is reserve a bunch of those assets, and every turn he essentially can just go into these corners of no man's land, which is nowhere anywhere the Drukhari wants to be, and just deny herd the prey every turn, which I think losing, it seemed like 2 turns of any points from herd the prey, that might just have been lights out on its own.
Yeah. Exactly right. He's chucking another unit down there as well. That's interesting. That is an interesting choice. He's putting 2 there. Or maybe this is turn 3 and he has to chuck all his reserves on. Yeah, that'd be what's happening. This is turn 3. Top of turn 3, he has to chuck all his reserves on anyway. So yeah, bring them all on.
But why not? I mean, there's so few assets left in the backfield that like there's no way that Junior really has the capability to get even rid of 2 infiltrator units. I don't think.
Yeah, spot on. I'd love to see how many of those Vanguard do you still got alive in that conglomerate in the middle where the Incubi are? How many of those units are Skitarii and how many of those are Dark Eldar?
So it looks like to me from my angle, as far as I can see, that you have all of the Incubi here that are still alive. Maybe only 1 has died, but it looks like the Skitarii unit itself is down to 5 or 3, with some witches remaining. Now, if we want, since they're resetting the cams right now, our boys behind the scene are doing some tech work. Would you like to hear some stats with regards to the top losses per faction?
Sure. I would like to point out that heard we were incorrect about. It doesn't even score turn 1. It was turn 2 that I was talking about. That one Ranger still being live would be such a frustration that turn 2 you couldn't score herd.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, we know it doesn't score turn 1. The point is that it one full turn of denying herd the prey is a big deal. These games come down to like individual digits of points. So, I mean, and that's a free 4 points that the Drukhari is not normally going to lose. So if we want some stats here for the chat, the faction's top armies lost the most against. So in this tournament, Drukhari had its highest losses against Sisters, actually.
Wow,
which
there
is
you go.
Not what I expected, followed by Necrons, and then more non-surprising is followed by Orks, because we know that the most armies, that the core armies that the Drukhari are taking do not pair well against Freebooters. Freebooters is a nightmare for like the regular Raider build list.
Yeah.
Orks actually, again, unsurprisingly, lost most of their matches against AdMech, because AdMech are just throttled so hard right now, especially if the Orks don't get first turn. But as we saw yesterday, and I predicted 1 of 10 correctly, that the AdMech even going second can still just apply cover to their entire army, which just that's immediately the advantage of Speedwalk is gone.
So funny pointed out, Greedy Hammer. Do you think 9th edition should bring back prepared positions stratagem? Well, AdMech already has it, and so does funny enough, so does Grey Knights as well in Tide of Shadows, essentially army by prepared positions. So what would you be doing by that? It would actually be a buff to AdMech, because then AdMech will get 2 turns of it.
Yes,
it'd be even harder to kill.
Probably not.
Grey Knights would get debuffed by it, so it would make Tide of Shadows feel worse, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right, let's hit a transition over to our other AdMech and Drukhari game. We'll see what we come back here. Looks like he has managed to fall back with that Vanguard block, by the way. So it looks like he will be able to kill those Incubi. He must have punched out all the witches. I said that was a threat there, by the way. When they are veteran cohort Vanguard, they got 3 attacks each for some damn reason, and they can just punch themselves out of combat pretty well.
Well, and especially because they're also reducing the toughness of all of the Drukhari, and most Drukhari are T3, which means they're T2, which means suddenly you have a Vanguard punching a Drukhari and wounding them on 3s, which is very effective, it turns out, when you only have 4+ saves.
I would like to point out again that our top... I would like to point out again that unfortunately our top-down cam is froze.
So it looks like the top down for table 2 is frozen as well. So let's do some continued stats, especially since we're on a Drukhari AdMech table. So to finish off the Orks top losses, as we said, were AdMechs, followed unironically by other Orks. The AdMech top losses are mostly from Drukhari, and as we're seeing in these matchups, I'm assuming that's mostly from a turn 1 who goes first. Because they're so throttled towards that. Whereas AdMech, of course, surprisingly, just like Drukhari, its second most losses were against Sisters. So Sisters maybe not in such a bad position as people assumed. And then the Grey Knights, which were one of our other highest scoring factions in the tournament, their highest losses, of course, were to Drukhari. But then another ironic twist: Grey Knights' other top losses were against other Grey Knights. Didn't see that coming.
Wow, there you go. That is interesting. One of the quick calls of this game, one of the biggest and most dominating things that the Drukhari still had available to them was that unit of 3 Kronos. It looks like that unit has been diminished down to a single Kronos that is heavily wounded as well. It looks like it's got 3 wounds left or 3 wounds taken. Now, I will say, it doesn't even matter. Does not even matter. Like, Quinton is playing a beautiful chess match right now because he's on 76 freaking points to 23.
Yeah.
His
points are just too high at this point.
Exactly. He's 50 points up, man. The guy is playing like a savant and just completely destroying his opponent's primary score.
All we need to see there is 0 primary in turn 4 for Colt Mechanicus on a hold 2, hold more, and 30 points for Drukhari. I mean, at this point, do you even see, with such low secondary scoring and 0 primary, is there even a chance that the Colt Mechanicus can bring this back?
He has to be tabled. There's the only win path here is to table the guy. Because then you'd assume you'd max or near max banners, you'd get 2 more turns of grind them down. And the Uncharted sequencing has 6 points, so opportunistically it could get another 6 points because he's already lost 3. It seems. If this is turn 3, that means he went 1 turn without getting it.
Well, the problem, though, is that I don't think he can max banners because if you table your opponent, you can only score the maximum you would be able to score. And essentially, we're in turn 4. He only has 1 banners, which means logistically, how many units can actually get onto the backfield to get more banners? It's probably only an 8-point banners maximum.
So this is the game where the Drukhari went first, and so we just see the difference in power. Drukhari went second in the junior Fleahy game versus so what's his opponent's name?
Matthew
Geyer. And Matthew has ruffle stomped him. Stomped him. This one is a flip, but not on the killing side of things, but on the point side of things. Matt has had his score completely destroyed. He's not scored any points. He's got 23 total points, by the way, and 10 of those points being from being, painted. His opponent is just raking it in, but has no models. He's got no models.
I mean, that's the thing that we're seeing as well, is that somehow I'm assuming just by great plays and max efficiency, the Drukhari has essentially evened out the numbers, because you remember there is huge blocks of Skitarii here that are no longer there, and that's most of the options he has to get rid of the Drukhari infantry, and they're basically gone. And I think that Quinton is doing the right idea, which is just ignore the chickens, because
ignore the chickens.
What do they add to this game? Really, realistically, nothing.
I'd like to point out that the last of the Stratoraptors has been picked up by these, what I'm assuming is the conglomeration of the last of the Kronos and the 2 Dark Lancers. So that's a pretty nice pickup there. So that's all 3 planes down. And so anti-infantry wise and anti-mech wise, it's really just, you're right, there's only anti-mech wise, there's the 2 chickens, but there's plenty of anti-infantry here. He's got 3 Incubi that have just gotten into that middle unit of Vanguard, or it's either Vanguard or it's Rangers. You can never tell from this position. Might as well be strikes or interceptors. Same damn thing.
Skitarii infantry.
We're gonna hit a transition. We're gonna hit over to the Demons game people want.
No, we're gonna take a look from the rotated camera to table 4 with Sean Aiden and Joel Wilson.
There we go. We are going to go over to the Sean Naden. This is the Dark Angels game. Look at that scoreline. Joel's bringing it back. He was 20 points down. Now he's only 12.
Again, Sean was trying to play the front half of the game and just front load, trying to get advantage on primary. But Joel, I think, is taking the right choice, which is just try and aim for the back half and weather.
Well, admittedly, the man won the last game these guys played. The man won by like 40 points. So why not just re-rack and do the same thing? They brought you to the dance, right?
Well, the difference though is that the major difference we see between these two matchups, we know they're both a hold 2 and a hold 3, but the major difference is that Joel has 3 objectives in his deployment zone, which is like perfect for an OBSEC 30 Terminators. They just sit on those objectives, and the only options that Drukhari has to actually get onto those objectives and deny the Terminators from scoring is to essentially kill them. Which means, as we saw in our last game, that Sean essentially has to invest nearly all of his army to just kill one of those units.
Brick. Yeah, 1 brick. We've seen him do it. We've seen him do it again. Seen him do it before. Looks like he's got stuff right. Well, of course, the army he's playing. He's going to have stuff on any part of the board that he wants. Just
I'm assuming this is to the last right here.
It's a pretty safe assumption, brother. I think you're right. You might be right.
Because there's I don't think there's any real chance of the Dark Angels being able to ever reach that unless Sean just throws it away.
I see Drukhari in every portion of this board, every single portion.
That's the thing. And we expected that because he has so many units. But the interesting thing is that because the Terminator units are 10 mans each, and they're so resilient that
they're OBSEC,
that the Drukhari has to throw so much at just one unit. The 10-man Terminator unit can essentially just sit and surround the objective. And that's it.
So, do we know who went first that game? I got to assume Sean went second.
Yeah, Demeki, can you tell us on
I'd love to know
Joel versus Sean's game, who went actually first, who started the round?
I'm of the opinion that Joel's he's either getting 5s or 10s, he's never getting 15s, whereas Sean's got a 15 already. I want to know if that was the score he got. It's turn 2. It's not turn 3. So Sean obviously got a 15 on turn 2, which makes me to believe that possibly Joel went first and has gotten a 5.
Yes.
Or a 10. Yeah, exactly right.
So we got confirmation that Joel did go first, which was actually probably the better. That's what he wanted, because essentially, even though he scores better on Oath, technically when you're going second, establishing your Terminators early on all 3 objectives is vitally important against this matchup.
Exactly right. It definitely is. And also just getting a start on getting some demeching, just getting some boots out of the boats is just so important so early. But mind you, that terrain piece, anybody watching this game, just tell all your friends, don't let Sean have that terrain piece.
No.
Just don't let him have it. He's gonna do bad things to you if he gets that hold of that terrain piece.
That's exactly right. Now, unfortunately, I have heard that maybe a misplay or maybe it was investment that didn't go correctly. Joel has lost his apothecary on bike, which means no more Terminators will be coming back. That's very important.
Well, so that apothecary also totes the reliquary of the repentant, the minus
yes.
1 in this game, the -1 invuln aura, which he likes to use against things like the succubuses, the archons, and the witches in combat to let him just pick them up wholesale whenever he wants.
All right, so let's transition over to table 3 here, the Orks versus Demons, because obviously this is progressing. Now, I thought going into this, especially getting 2 greater demons with a -1 to wound, that the demons were in a prime position. But now seeing it here, the volume is too high. I
was the skeptical one. Scott was like, Andrew was like, yes, Scott can get another win. Our hero might make it deeper into this thing. And as much as my bleeding heart was like, yes, I would love that to be the case, I was just like, I just don't know if he's got enough time. He needs like a 9-turn game in order to do this.
Yeah,
I just don't think he does.
Freebooter's gonna freebooter all day long.
Booter's gonna boot, and they went first as well, which can't be overstated. The freebooters went first.
No, okay, here's something. Oh, sorry, real quick. Here's something interesting. You and I were digging into the list, and we were confused as why he had the 3 Scavengers as individual units. Now, actually, in this matchup, that ended up turning into a huge advantage, because obviously, if there was a unit of 3, 1 keeper just goes into the unit of 3, and they're there forever.
Yeah, just eats them all up. Whereas, but see, that's what I thought. If he did have the unit of 3, he could just play the entire game to keep them away from the unit of 3. And that unit of 3 just gets all the protection of every other buggy, and it's just you're shooting it. It goes from this side to this side to this side, just pivots all around his back line. That's what I thought would have been the optimum way to do that, because that unit fully buffed into a non 4+ invuln keeper almost kills the damn thing, as long as you proc a freebooter or 2 before it shoots.
Yeah, now knowing Orks, I can tell you right now, and having formerly played the Buggy's List before their 9th edition codex, I don't know if that would have been possible only because he has so many that the footprint is so large. Trying to
Mm,
maneuver that large a force, I think this is where having the individual buggies has actually been an advantage because he can just
yeah.
literally put them everywhere.
Well, I'd
And
love to. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when these guys were putting down the terrain because the terrain looks so. It looks like it's Scott would have been putting it down, being like, "Yeah, I'm going to control your lanes of fire and put a bit of everything everywhere." And then the orc player would have been like, "Cool, I get to stop
cool.
you from moving anywhere,
Yeah, there's
whenever I
so
want."
essentially. I think if that's true, then the demons player may have made a mistake because ironically, the long range firepower is not what would have been effective against his force because the demons have to come to him, which
Yeah,
means that the
exactly right.
firing lanes are unimportant.
And
Um,
admittedly, we called this again, yeah. Well, sorry, you called this one perfectly when you said that I think this is just going to come down to Scott not being able to score enough primary. He's just going to
yeah,
lose too many assets in order to maintain any primary score enough to win the game. That seems
yeah.
to be the tale of it. 48-21. It's most of its primary score.
Yeah, I mean, there's you only have so many assets. I think this is
Mm.
maybe why the one mistake he made was putting all of his army on the board turn one,
Yes. Yeah.
because he needed those. He really needed the demons to do damage early, the greater demons to do damage early, and do enough of a disrupt that his troops essentially couldn't just get picked off by Daka jets every turn.
Exactly right. And if you know you're going to take grind them down, it doubles down on that because all of a sudden you're not giving your opponent an opportunity to pick up 3 things a turn. You're really
Exactly.
yeah, you're really controlling and not getting the opportunity to get 2 or 3 plus ones to hit, or in order to negate your innate negative ones on Bellicor and such.
And we know now that turn one and turn two, the whole orc army had +2 to hit, so
Yes.
none of the negative to hit bonuses were in
Meant
effect.
anything. Meant anything. Yeah. Too
Um,
many like those Nurglings that he put on the table. Were just out there. I get the thinking behind it, but in hindsight, it may have been a mistake. But you know what? I'm not gonna take anything away from Scott. The guy's an absolute gun. Went the distance with an army that no one gave any real credence to, and showed why like demons can still be a force, especially with player place terrain and having a little bit more agency.
Now, I don't think Scott's totally out of the game yet. I think he has the chance to get some primary in the back end, but unfortunately, the only way he can do so, since he's gone second, he has that opportunity. He needs his remaining greater demons to essentially pick up 2 or even more buggies a turn. I think that's the only
Mm.
way he'll essentially be able to score any primary.
Yeah, exactly right. That's the issue. Yeah, with the things like the Daka jets, just being able to go back, pick up whatever little unit here and there he wants, your board presence just evaporates, and that's
Yeah.
that's
All
one
right.
of the big problems. That's one of the really big problems for demons. You don't have anything that can sit an objective that has obsec that just doesn't explode to a stiff breeze.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the only thing coming close is Plague Bearers, and Plague Bearers are only
Mm.
semi-useful. So, well, we're going to see how this game progresses, but it looks like it might be wrapping up. Let's hop over to table one and see if Junior's maybe to manage to pull something out of his hat.
Oh, I hope so, man. I hope he keeps himself trapped in combat because if we go back and there's no Hellions and there's no Incubi on the AdMech side of the board, oof, rough day at the office.
Well, it does look like he
Yeah,
did exactly what we expected, which is he put his Cerberus Raiders and only 2 on and didn't kill the Raiders just to make it so he could not score that
could not
objective for
score.
primary.
So it's a nice fatty 5 for Junior next turn. Looks like he holds his home objective in the middle and the one to the right. But yeah, Incubi have been picked up. Hellions have been picked up.
Yeah.
Looks like
We
the
see.
total army for Junior is what 2 Hellions on the middle right objective, on his home right objective, and 2 Raiders on the left.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing as well that there's likely only one model or one character here holding the central objective, so that one's
Mm.
going to go. Especially if those Raiders are still alive, there's just no way he
Look at
can hold that.
Look at this broke ass whatever. That unit of Rusty's Rust Stalkers has probably just made it an advance in charge into those Raiders, and he's probably just going to kill 1, maybe 2 of them. The only issue there is I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares if he kills that unit and Obsec gets out. He's just like, well, the game's over. I just need to make sure my score is just absolutely ridiculous. Mind you, it's single elimination. So essentially, like, what do you really, yeah. It's just single elimination. And this
Oh,
game is almost cooked.
yeah. So okay, on the Drukhari's back right objective, if we can go back to the top down, I can give you a little update of what things are. So this right now that's a single Hellion and an Archon on that
Mhm.
objective. This right here is a Succubus,
Oh
all
yeah,
on its
cool.
lonesome. And then this is just a single Cobblate, likely one of the leftover Trueborn left alive. So I essentially think maybe these units are unassailable. There is that is only a forest right here, so there's nothing actually line of sight blocking from targeting those units,
Yeah.
especially against these blocks of Scutari that we see right here. But I assume that all of this Succubus here, and then eventually this Cobblate are just going to go,
Well,
and
you
that'll be
look
it.
at the look at the resources he has. He's got like that unit of 8 Rust Orkers just bearing down. They just go forward. They just kill both the units on those 2 home objectives for Junior.
Yes, easily.
Really, really rough. Looks like that raider has been killed. He's doing the disembark as we speak right now. Just seeing what he can and can't get out. Because it looks like he has gummed himself up a little bit by putting that raider next to another one. So he might not be able to disembark much.
Yeah, I mean, he might have to pop. He does have a 1 CP left, so if he
Yep.
needs to, he can do an emergency disembark, but that's definitely not something he wants to do at this moment.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know what better of choice. I think maybe he could have swung one of the raiders to the central objective just to get some kind of redundancy there and give it some options for engagements. But otherwise, I mean, if these Cerberus raiders end up being end up remaining on the game in the game, then he can just literally swing them around and get rid of characters, and then swing the Rust Stalkers this way, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Nick H, Joel game isn't cooked. We could be watching that. Unfortunately, yeah, we don't have cameras on that table yet. We only have that panning shot that we're able to get to you guys. But yeah, we're still going to bring you guys as much coverage as we can. We've got Demeki, our man on the ground, giving us the updated scores. And you got our lovely faces. Like, look at this guy. This guy right here. This is Andrew Dickinger, guys. Get used to this face. You might see it a lot more.
I love you all. Thank you so much for joining us.
At Frontline Gaming, we make the best tabletop gaming mats in the universe. Our mats are durable.
What's going on, Val?
Oh, no, he ran a little bit of the ad. He ran a little bit of the ad.
He got offended by our beauty and decided to know more.
Yeah, checked it. We're still watching. We're still paying attention.
How dare you.
Look at that. Look at that score. As this game wrapped up, this is the Matt Estrada versus Quinton game, and looks like Quinton has just dominated, just absolutely dominated.
Yeah, and it looks like it's almost exactly as we predicted had happened, where the Skitarii pretty much had tabled the Drukhari, but there's just maybe not enough points that they can actually accrue, even with a tabling, in order to actually come ahead. Because again, even though if you table your opponent in both 8th and 9th edition, it does not matter if your opponent scored higher. You don't just get max points for tabling your opponent. You don't just get max points.
Yep.
You only get the points you're able to score.
You're able to score what's reasonable to expect.
Yes.
I do like that change. It gives a lot of agency to weaker armies to, like, not just hold back and play boring. Just go and play exciting games. Try and score what you can. Final score is up for you guys. A almost 40 point win for Quinton, 85-49. A phenomenal effort.
Yes.
Well done to him. So yeah, first score of the top 8 in. We have Drukhari progressing in the Drukhari and AdMech game.
You realize what's happening. Unfortunately, this means that in the next round, we have one Drukhari that won and likely one AdMech that won, so nothing has changed.
We don't learn any further about the state of the meta, except that going first matters.
Is important. Which is so funny, because for the majority of 9th edition, it seemed like the advantage was to go second for a huge portion of 9th edition. And now you're suddenly seeing these throttling armies that are like, guess what? The complete opposite.
Exactly right. No, but so what you're able to do if you go first on this mission especially is to just absolutely gank your opponent's primary score. Now, the only way it comes back is because 15s are so hard to get in this mission that going second, if you're able to get that 15, you can make up for all the shortfall you had during the game in just one fell swoop. Because at the same
100%.
time, because at the same time your opponent's throwing things to disrupt yours, as long as you're killing them back, they're not getting 15s themselves. And so as long as you maintain 5s and 10s, they maintain 5s and 10s, you can still always swing it back on the back end. But because everything is so killy, most likely in a lot of matchups between these super S-tier armies, you don't have enough stuff at the end of the game to get those 15s.
No, and I mean, especially with regards to the Hold 2 and Hold 3 missions, it's just assets are so important. Now, granted, you think, 6 objectives, that's fairly easy to score comparatively, but the bottom line is that the board is still large enough, depending on where the investment of your units are, you may not have the mobility to actually get on enough objectives to get more than a 5 primary in a turn. It's a lot more difficult than you think.
Tom Bad Gaming has got a question in the chat. What does TLM on Quinton's objectives markers mean? I love that logo. Probably means tender loving man. He's quite a loving guy.
Of course. 100%.
I have no idea what it means.
Is there even a question?
No, it's just
we know what it
loving
means.
Man.
It's tender loving man. That's all it means.
Quinton, tender loving man.
So it looks like we have an updated score on the Joel Wilson versus Sean Naden game.
Threat level, apparently it means threat level midnight. I like mine way better.
Okay, so apparently in the Sean Naden versus Joel Wilson game, Sean still has a commanding lead of 27 points over Joel. I don't know if Joel's going to be able to bring up enough in the back end. He only has 2 turns remaining.
Well, if Sean disrupts Stubborn Defiance, this game is over. If he maintains Stubborn Defiance and this game goes the distance, that'll be a 15. Oath of Moments will be a nice, comfortable, probably 10 at this stage. So what's that? That's another huge bucket of points added to that score.
My question
that almost
is,
brings up a shortfall by itself.
My question is, Stubborn Defiance scores first 2 points in the second turn, correct?
Yep, 3 points in the third, and then
Wait.
5 and 5 in the last 2.
Then does that mean that since they're in turn 3, since Joel went first and it's turn 3, does that mean that he's already been denied Stubborn Defiance?
Yes, it does. Unless if the scores are up to date.
A big deal. Yes.
And that will mean that's cooked. That's well cooked. If he can't get a 15 of Stubborn Defiance, he can't win this game.
There's no way.
From this position, unfortunately.
I mean, it's immediately offset. It's immediately offset from the 15 automatic points that he's getting from To the Last, Sean Aiden, that is. So yes, he needed that Stubborn Defiance to get full points. So it looks like even with all of what's going wrong on table 1 for Junior Flehy, he's still managing to stay alive and do as much as he can. Obviously, at this point, he's just trying to score as many points. He might be able to pull something out, but I'm just afraid he doesn't have the assets. We see at either the succubus here died or it shifted to somewhere from above, though I can't really tell where it might be. This might be it actually right back there, trying to hold that back objective.
Right now, so there's 8 players playing right now, and 4 of those players are going to lose. So essentially what you're playing for here is what? 5th place?
Yeah, I mean, as the highest possible placing amongst the losers bracket, at least, assuming you are going to lose, you still want to score as high as possible, especially if you want a high rank in the ITC.
Dude, 5th feels a lot better than 8th, you know?
Yeah,
getting the top 8 probably feels incredible, but 5th is a lot better than 8th. So 100%. Get those points.
And we know that a lot of these guys are hunting ITC points. They're trying to just score as high as possible within their faction. So I mean, just legends playing it out to the end to try and get as much as they can.
Yeah, Almost Pro Gaming getting some love in the chat. Vont Zuma. I started attending tournaments because of your videos, Almost Pro Gaming. I hope you'll get back into 40k in the future. Dude, I hope you do as well. And yeah, wonderful to see you guys influencing each other in the community. Just, you know, everybody influences everybody. Everybody helps everybody grow. It really is a bit of a rising tide conglomerate. Scott is quite down. He's quite down, unfortunately. Down on the points, that is. I know his morale is probably quite high.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think we can both agree that he lost too many assets too early, that there's just primary is essentially completely out of the picture at this point.
Mind you, he did what I thought he was going to do with that keeper. Check it onto the right objective and then gun it up the right side of the table just to disrupt his opponent's score. Because right there, it's just such a frustration piece as soon as it gets back there.
Now, of course, the Lord of Change is never going to change from that position. Is Be'lakor? I think Be'lakor is dead, though. I don't see Be'lakor.
Be'lakor is dead. Yeah, he died last turn, man.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
Rough.
I mean,
well, it turns out even if you are, you know, -1 to win and you know, -1 to hit, an entire Freebooters army shooting you for 2 turns still gets Be'lakor. Turns out.
Well, especially when they can essentially negate one of those defenses by getting the freebooter bonus from any of these free units. I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised as well if they even got like some base efficiency, because remember the Keeper of Secrets don't have -1 to hit; they have -1 to wound, which means that maybe he got one low and managed to proc freebooters off of killing one of the keepers to then try and kill Be'lakor. So
it's almost a fun thing. It's a funny thing. We used to have an ITC, yeah, because you used to have the Killmore strat, and a lot of people played MSU against non-MSU armies, and I used to just, when I was playing Guardsman against like a non-MSU army, like I played against Deathwatch or Custodian or something, and they'd take Killmore, I'd throw all my Guardsmen at them turn 1 and let them kill them all, so they wouldn't get points later in the game.
Yeah,
for getting Killmore every turn. It's almost like you want to do that against freebooters. Throw all your little squads at them, so they can't get freebooters like turn 4, turn 5, because they'd have their little squads to pick up.
Yeah, no, I would say that was likely true. Unfortunately, at this point, like, killing is for most of 9th edition, killing was actually like a secondary objective for the game, because you had all these MSU units that were just scoring and denying your opponent from actually getting anything. Now, granted, Freebooters has completely gone the opposite direction and just decided, you know what, they can't score if they have nothing left,
and punishes the hell out of you having small, flimsy squads. In addition,
it absolutely counters the MSU build, especially from one of the most dominant armies, which is Drukhari. I mean, Drukhari lives in the 5-man unit toughness 3 bracket. Yeah. And that is like, Nom, 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 nom,
That's
tasty.
bread and butter. That's mother's milk right there. You're just gonna pick up, 5 squads plus 5 to hit. Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I
Orcs
mean,
could be hitting on 2s without the cap on the modifiers.
and we know
Hit on
that Drukhari
1s.
gets access to -1. We know that Sean Naden is playing into having native -1 on all of his Venoms instead of the Raiders, which do not. But I mean, the Raiders, as we've seen, is actually a worse matchup going into freebooters than
It
having
is.
these more
It is.
flimsy
Yeah.
yet -1 to hit Venoms.
And more higher density. I mean, it's actually rare to see a 6 Raider list these days. Usually we're seeing between
Yes.
4 and 5. Junior has 6. Even that wasn't enough to save him from the AdMech menace. He still managed to kill all the planes, but not before he popped, 4 out of his 6 Raiders?
Yeah, three of the 6. But the problem is that it was like it's cart before the horse. Even though he's killing planes, the damage is already done. I mean,
Yeah.
both of his Hellion units were cut in half, as
Yeah,
well as
before
3 Raiders.
I even got to use him. Exactly
Yeah.
right.
So down from 20 Hellions to 10 Hellions and 3 Raiders down, basically turn 2. That's very hard to recover from.
Yeah, very, very hard. In fact, we might pivot back to that because we're starting to get the end of this one. We've already had one of our games wrapping up. Can we get a quick transition over to Junior's game? Be greatly afraid. Table 1, I believe, and then we'll hit a transition over to the Sean Naden game. Give you a quick call there. But look, the scoreline's actually quite close.
Well, the score is close, but it looks like only 1 Raider remains. So one of the Raiders down in the bottom left was killed, and then the other Raider, no, it was just those 2 Raiders remaining. My apologies.
It was,
so,
yeah.
So he has brought it towards the central objective because obviously that single Trueborn is not going to hold that objective by itself. But as we can see here, unfortunately, the Archon and the remaining Hellion are both gone, so that objective is
no,
free.
no. They're not. They charged off to the right-hand side. Succubus got out of that Raider, by the way, and picked up most of the Ruststalker unit that popped that Raider. And as you can see at the top of the table, just to the right-hand side,
is this
that
them
Archon.
there?
Yeah, there's the Hellion going
so
into that unit, and the Archon directly below.
Yeah, so they went after the infiltrators. Now, unfortunately, they were trying to just do as much damage as possible because, as you can see, he's only scored 4 for Herd the Prey, which at this point, this late in the game, is very bad. You need to get those early points with Herd the Prey, and I think the AdMech did brilliantly here, which they just denying even 2 turns of Herd the Prey is huge.
Well, I think Junior's right now feels like he's playing for 5th spot. It's like, look, I'm probably going down at like best. I'm going down by like 10, 20 points. I might be going down by 30 or 40. Doesn't matter. I'm going to get myself, 5th or 6th. I'm going to get some more ITC points. And make as big a deal out of it as I can. That unit of Raiders in the bottom left just got picked up as well. What the hell got out of that Raider that picked up 6 Ruststalkers and now 5 Raiders?
I'm assuming it's probably a Succubus with the Triptych Whip.
Well, I know one of them is a Succubus.
Oh, it's Succubus and Drazar. Yeah, they'll do the trick.
Okay. Fair enough. Story checks out. Let's hit over table 4, guys.
Let's check in on Sean Naden and Joel Wilson and see how that's going. I unfortunately am only seeing a brick of Terminators here and not much others remaining.
We don't know if there's the one in the top right. I'm assuming I thought the one in the top right would get a huge investment, the same as he did last time. He posted up behind a line of sight blocking piece of terrain and then just flooded one of those Terminator bricks with essentially 3/4 of his army and all his combat potential, and he ate it in one turn. Well, he took it down to one guy left, which actually ended up working out for him because he got to pin off that guy and that Ravenwing Apothecary and not get shot by all the Stormbolters. As it sits right now, Sean's got a commanding 19-point lead. And I think it's just going to maintain it around that level, even best case scenario. No, it does look like Stop and Defiance is still up and going, mate. You got 3 points.
So we got an update from our pit bosses, our man Demeki. Apparently, what happened on Joel and Sean's table is they've done a full swirl. And apparently Joel has gone entirely to one side of the table, and he's actually on one of Sean's home objectives.
Beautiful. So that'd be the one in the bottom left that we can't quite make.
That would likely be this one here.
He learnt from what happened last game. He said, well, you're going to have this huge, and you're going to come and body me. So I'm not going to let you. I'm going to let you. We're going to have a weak front. You can come and eat that one. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to take one of yours in exchange. Yeah, well done, Joel. That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needed to do. He's army operates in a ball. With these 3 Terminator units essentially being in support of each other, you got to keep that 24-inch bubble so that they can all blast with their Stormbolters to defend each other. And that was absolutely the right play because, again, as we saw in yesterday's game, he tried to spread out too far, and essentially that top Terminator unit was completely out of the game after the first turn.
I love the 6-man unit of Blade Guard in this matchup. I absolutely adore it. Because they function like the fourth unit of Terminators. Because it takes Sean so much of an investment. There's no blast weapons that you're getting blasted from. There's no D3 weapons, so you don't really care. So yeah, just keeping him as a big ball and just marching him up into Sean's face feels like a good option to bring all the effectiveness of a Terminator brick without having 300, 400 points of usage.
Now I've been told that on that table it may be lights out momentarily for Joel because Sean has gone in and has completely swamped one of the remaining Terminator units on one of the far objectives, so that likely Joel will only have units on 2 objectives after the end of this turn, which essentially is just not enough units left to get enough board presence. It's that hold 2, hold 3. When you don't have a lot of units, it's really rough to try and hold that many objectives.
It's absolutely right. We've got a lot of love for Joel. Nick H rooting for Joel in the chat. Valerie's joined us, so as Tom Bad Gaming. Thank you so much, guys. Almost Pro Gaming sticking with us as well. Give us a shout. It's where you guys hailing from. What are you doing with your afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you may be in this big wide world of Warhammer? And yeah, what do you want to see for the finals? We have the semis coming up straight after this, after our probably short-ish lunch break. Dude, I am keen. So right now, if I had to, just taking from the high scores, we have Orks, Drukhari, AdMech being our 4 semi-finalists.
Top 4,
How do you feel about that?
The Orks, I would say at this point, is a little surprising. I thought most of them had gotten chewed out. I mean, we knew that Orks was going to be dominant with freebooters, but I expected more than one to be present in the top 8, and yet so many of them were eaten up either by each other or by bad matchups, as we saw. Even Joel taking out 3 of them.
I know, what a boss! Jeez.
Wow. But yeah, so I expected more Orks. 1 Ork is very nice. That's to be expected. Who's surprised by Drukhari having a top spot? Almost
exactly
no one. That Codex is just so good.
So Tom Dad Gaming wants to see AdMech versus Orks and the Drukhari mirror match. I think that'd be really cool. Though I would actually like to see. So it's a very good Ork list, but I would like to see if Sean Nathan's list does what he thinks it does versus that many buggies, because he just has so many more than usual. Paleo Diet. Paleo Diet is painting up some Squighod boys. Awesome. What scheme you going for, mate? Or are you making up your own? Are you following any of the known clans? Rich Kilton is in Utah and wishing I was there. Hello, Rich. Love you, mate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Love you,
Drake
Rich.
just says wah. And Nick H, Orks, not OP. Also, Joel chumps Orks. Absolutely does. Dude, Joel is the Ork dominator. He's the Ork beater. He just slaughtered them.
Now, I want to say this with regards to the top 4. You were talking about matchups. In an asset test, I want to see if Sean's list can actually hold up to the freebooters nonsense.
Same. I want to see, because on paper, it looks like that's exactly what it's supposed to do, yeah?
Well,
it's
but
supposed to smash freebooters.
Here's my question, though. With the remaining Mechanicus player, likely Mechanicus player going into the Final 4, do we think that if Sean goes second against that army, can he weather the storm?
That's a big deal, isn't it? What's our next mission, by the way? Also, I'll just have a quick look. Next mission is Sweep and Clear. It's got direct assault, so that's that beautiful, very easy to
direct
score secondary.
So awesome.
I think that favors. Whoever's playing against Sean. By the way, because you put a 20-man unit of Vanguard into the middle objective with all the defensive buffs. Good luck, Sean. Good luck not losing half your army to try and kill it, and then that half of the army just gets deleted.
It's again the what could have been the Joel problem with the Blade Guard on the central objective or in the center area. Essentially, is just like the amount of investment that Sean would have to do to get rid of that unit is just so high that it could be crippling. Now, granted, the surviving AdMech player only has the token combat units in order to remove an army. So if he does manage to ball around that 20-man blob and keep them in combat, that's a big problem.
Yeah, exactly right. And next mission is being Sweep and Clear. It's a 5-objective mission that is table quarters, as in you're deploying a quarter of the table, with 1 objective in the middle of each table quarter, and then 1 in the center of the table. It's going to be a real interesting one for some of these matchups. The Ork player, I believe...
Loves that matchup.
It does it. Like, the deployment's actually quite awkward for him because he just has to block up everything, can really get in his own way. So if I knew which side of the table the Ork player had to deploy on, because you know which quarter they have to be in once you pick which size, I would get the biggest piece of terrain I have and put it in the center of his deployment zone.
Oh yeah, I mean, essentially give him no options for maneuverability, and then
break up everything, spread it all out, maybe put some stuff in some really awkward positions.
Yeah, I mean,
in the world.
The Orcs obviously love that mission because one, it's easy for them with the size of their footprint to dogpile the center for direct assault, but as well, anytime the opponent chooses to invest in direct assault, if possible, that means you're getting shot at by the entire Freebooter army on that central objective.
Yeah, exactly right. Double O Donut has stated that he's surprised that Grey Knights didn't make it to the top. I'm actually too. I'm actually quite surprised too. I think they do quite well in this objectives, so in this terrain, sorry, rather, and have just good matchups. Well, not amazing, but just solidly good matchups almost across the board. And so I was really surprised not to see them.
Well, we saw that Grey Knights, from the stats that we got from our boys behind the scenes, that most of the Grey Knights in this tournament were knocked out by Drukhari, but then right behind them, apparently a bunch of the Grey Knights ate each other in combat.
They all knocked each other out, and then Drukhari got the rest, picked up the scraps. Pretty hilarious.
You're wondering how that could happen. Obviously, if the Grey Knights are tooled the same way and they're scoring around the same level, then they can just end up being matched against each other, which is unfortunate.
Exactly right.
So we're looking at table 3, the Chaos Demons versus Freebooters, and I mean that score says everything you need to know, which is there's just an indomitable lead by the Orcs at 76.
Just stuff, man. Too much stuff.
Too much stuff. Just all the things and stuff. Things and stuff everywhere. And this is, like I said, I actually think this has a little bit of jazz in it, only because with the previous problem we were seeing with Freebooters list is that they had all of the balls of buggies, which just limits the amount of units, which this doesn't have at all. It's just individual buggies everywhere, which means he has a lot of units that he can use for different things.
Yeah. See, I usually am a fan of the single nitro squig buggy and then a unit of 2, but it's really the only reason I say that is because I just feel like you need to get the most out of the slots you've got. Just because you want to take so many different slots, different
the fast
units.
Attack slot in Orks, especially for Freebooters, is very occupied.
As dense as all dense. Like, if you don't want to take 2 Outriders, I think you have to kind of have some units of 2. What's he said? I don't know what he says there.
He's got it's reversed. He says not over, I think. Something like
not
that.
Over. Go, man, go.
Go, you got it, man. Chaos Demons, all the way.
I actually have no idea what that says. Get Demeki over to make sure we know what it says.
Yeah, Demeki, what did it...
I hope it says not over.
I hope it says not over as well, because he's a goddamn legend at that point.
Just fighting it out to the end. Yeah, absolute legend. Love it. Preach it. So much support in chat. It says nerf Orks. Nerf Orks.
That's a little different than not over, but
yeah. Well done. Well done.
I think that sentiment is shared. I think as we're seeing are likely the 3 top armies, which is AdMech, Drukhari, and Orks, surprising no one.
Nobody.
All 3 of those need some kind of adjustment. I would say, and we mentioned this previously, Drukhari just needs a few points adjustments. I'd say leave the book alone. AdMech, not sure how you change so much of that army, but Orcs Freebooters, people have already talked about the possibility that Orc Freebooters buggies are getting nerfed and their planes are getting nerfed. So,
well, if you just turn up all the Orc buggies to somewhere between 100 to 110 points, I think they're fine. Because you just knock off like 3 buggies from each list, and I think it's fine. Because I mean, you still like
now the Flyers though. I mean, a Daggerjet should be minimum 150 points with 6 super shooters.
Yeah, what is it now? It's
120. It's 120 with 6 super shooters. It's 100 base, and then it's 20 more for 2 more super shooters, which you're always going to do.
That's stupid.
Extremely efficient. And I mean, you're talking about 36 or 42 shots on a speedwalk. It's nuts. And then you're hitting on 4s with freebooters. Oh man,
it's vile. There's the handshake. Scott, everybody, standing ovation for Scott LaFontaine.
Scott, you're a legend.
Going far further than anybody would have ever thought he could have. He did. Out of the camera.
We love you, Scott. Thanks
and well
for
done to Logan.
Hard. Logan, good job with freebooters.
Logan, absolutely great job. He held his nerve, went to the line, did everything he needed to do to win that game, and Logan getting a huge win there. 40-point win when all said and done, I believe. Scott, take nothing away from you, mate. Just didn't have the tools to go the distance, unfortunately. And just demons showing their age at the end of it all.
Yeah, I mean, we can tell that the Exalted gave them the boost that they needed to at least stay relevant for a certain period of time, but the general core of the book itself, its stratagems, its troop units, they need some kind of adjustment to be more relevant.
Yeah.
Now the question is who's going to be, as far as the losers of the top 8, the losers bracket, who's actually going to score high? Because we're seeing a lot of scores around, except for a 64 loss from Matt Estrada, which is actually quite high. Is anybody going to be able to topple that and take the fifth position slot?
Yeah, 64 is big from Matt.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot to get, especially with some of the smashings that we're seeing. The only person I think is going to jump that will be Joel. Joel, I'm hoping Joel can jump that.
He has the potential to, for sure.
Yeah, he definitely has the scoring potential. There is assist right now. Sean getting even. Well, he's just maintaining that lead. I said he was about 20 points up, and he's maintaining that pretty well.
And we can see as well that it looks like Stubborn Defiance wasn't denied. We just hadn't been updated yet, so he has been maintaining Stubborn Defiance, which means unless he gets tabled, he will probably get max points with that.
I'm actually against. So one of the reasons I don't like the psychic interrogation taken by in that scenario, you just have to keep Ezekiel alive at all costs. And Sean at any point could just sling any old unit to pick him up, like a single succubus, either one of his archons if he's got the Huskblade guide, not as his while we stand, or he just a succubus just goes out and just kills him, and then congratulations on your 3 or 0 points possibly. I'm happy to say he at least got 3 points out of it.
I think that any of either that or Warp Ritual would likely have been a mistake in this matchup, only because both of them force him to essentially be in the center of the table with the Psyker, because mental interrogation, he has to be within range of the characters in the opposing army, which puts the ball entirely in Sean's court to deny. And if he goes for Warp Ritual as well, then again, he has to be in the center of the table, which is exactly where Ezekiel is not going to survive. So I don't know what he could have chosen that would have been differently, but I mean, maybe because he was going mental interrogation, that's why he chose Oath. Yeah.
Well, I would like to say with a 48, Joel has a good options. He's 16 points. He needs to if he can get 17 more points in this game, he'll jump the 64 from Estrada and come in 5th. Right now, he's pretty much solid in 6th.
Yeah, I think we know he at least has 5, so really he needs to find 12 points somewhere, because he's going to likely get a full Stubborn Defiance. So if he can get 12 points from either a low score primary, or if he can get it from, say, getting like Oath of Moment or something in the final turn, then that would be a big deal.
Exactly right. I love you guys in the chat just talking over the meta at the moment. It's fun to unpack it. It really, really, really is. Some people talking about Orks. JF McCoy, the problem with Orks is just the one buggy scrapjets shouldn't have two big shooters, two twin big shooters rather. With Speedwar, it just gives too much. It gives about twice the shots of the next buggy down, and the benefits of most of the Speedwar. Plus, it's just the best one in combat also.
Yes, I mean, the scrapjet clearly throttles both phases. It also has the potential to do D3 mortal wounds on itself on the charge. It's just logistically with the change to the rocket launcher to be 3D3 shots as opposed to, I think, if I remember correctly, it was D3 previously. That amount of change in its firepower and 20 shots from two twin big shooters, not even in a speedwalk.
Yes.
I mean, I'm thinking that the scrapjet, it should probably sit somewhere around 120, 130 points.
Exactly right. We had a question in the chat by, who was it by? A gentleman asking, Vontazimi is asking about the Craftworld players or Harlequins in attendance. There was 5 mixed Eldari, 1 Harlequins, and 2 Craftworld Eldar players in attendance. I wonder if we can get a lovely man, Magikarp, Mr.
Matt Castro, yes.
Mr. Matt Castro, to go and pick up some of the stats from the Eldari super faction, well, the non-Drukhari portions of it, and we can come and report to you that during the next game. Well, he can do it during lunch break. He doesn't need to eat. Get some funnel cake, come back, sit down, do the stats. Right, he's right there in the back. He's doing some nice interviews with Logan.
He's not
Get it
busy.
together, Val. Get it together.
Get us our stats, Mr. Castro. No eating.
Yeah, no eating. Just stats. Look at Scott walking around in the background, talking to his missus, like, baby, you almost did it. I'm sorry. And his lovely partner, he's like, I still love you, Scott. Did it for your people.
Yeah, I mean, he was a legend to still make. I mean, the fact that we got a 30 bomb Dark Angels and a Demon Star or Demons multiple Greater Demons list into the top 8 is insane.
Insane. Who would have thought? Who would have conjured that at the start of this? Not in my wildest dreams would I have been like, you know what's really going to make the 8? Demons.
And what's ironic now seeing it, I'm glad, or I don't know if I'm glad, but it's interesting to see how wrong I was about that matchup. I almost wonder if that was like the worst pairing he had, likely in the
hindsight?
top 8.
In
Yeah.
hindsight, possibly, yeah. I would have loved to have seen Scott into Naden. The only issue there is Naden doesn't get a lot of mileage for some of his melee assets, but all of a sudden the Venoms just do a great work. 8 Venoms are just like, ha ha!
Auto 3+ the wound, that -1 the wound does
Yeah,
absolutely nothing.
and 2 damage, like, amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would have been an interesting matchup. I would have also loved to have seen him against one of the AdMech flyer lists, because I think that he has the tools to just eliminate those flyers early. And
Fire Drake 22. I want Naden to win so that his wife will let him come home. For anybody who doesn't know Naden's wife, she's a savage. She he goes to a super major and makes it to the top 8 of LVO and then drops out in like the semifinals. She's like, pathetic, mediocre, and drives off.
Mediocre.
So good.
And of course, because he has another baby on the way, like he's trying to get as much of his last run in as he can.
Handshake over on the Sean Naden Joel game. It looks, well, let's just see what Joel's got. Does Joel get 6th or does Joel get 5th?
Yeah.
That's pretty much the question there. Sean looks like to have comfortably gotten through to the semis.
Yeah, surprisingly, it looks like Junior O'Flaherty's still alive in that game.
Yeah, dude.
Fighting and scrapping as much as he can to get as much he can out of the rest of the game.
The wily veteran he is, he's not going to sit back and just let anything happen to him. He's going to get on the front foot and see what he can mix it up.
Okay.
So it looks like he's got a Raider with some stuff in it sitting on his back home objective, and in the top left looks like he has a Succubus.
All right.
Up there on that home objective.
I'm surprised, because it looked like he was in dire straits coming from the end of turn 1 and turn 2, but surprisingly, the Skitarii has very little assets remaining, so he's managed to scrap himself right out of the bind.
Well, dude, the Skitarii's only up by 8 points now. He's just had to activate all his characters. So Drazar has to go out eat a unit. Succubus eats a unit. Keep pinch hitting here, there, and everywhere. He's just scrapping his way to what could be a very small win, or even maybe close to a draw.
And
for all we know.
You know that precision blows double flail succubus has the potential to wipe out an entire Skitar unit by itself.
Anything in the game, essentially.
Maybe
not Drazar.
I mean, well, it depends on how well the mortal wounds get throttled with precision blows. But I mean, he could have gotten 1 or 2 turns of her rolling hot and just going straight through the infantry in the back lines. That's the beauty of Drukhari right now. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the things that needs to change with that faction. Is the 65 succubus seems a little low.
Yeah, little low, just a touch. People are pointing out how savage Sean's wife is, but also pointing out that Brad Chester's is equally as savage. Maybe that's what we're doing wrong, Andrew. We just need to have a savage partner willing to spur us on to great heights.
Okay, you know what? I'll say this then. Sean, 94 points. Where's the 96, Sean? Where's the 99? How dare you?
I know, Joel, 3 points more, Joel. 3 points more, and you would have had that 5th locked up. Like, I think he's going to get 6th right now. But hell, Junior could jump both these boys and push them both down.
I mean, if Junior somehow pulls out some magic and ends up winning that game, that will be an unbelievable upset, considering he went 2nd against that AdMech list. I don't think it's possible. I think he's just slightly too behind. But if he did, that would be unbelievably awesome.
Exactly right. Zadason has asked, is a succubus without upgrades that bad? Is all the power mostly in the upgrades? It's actually mostly in the upgrades. Like, yeah.
Well, okay. So
she's not bad, but she's not OP without any upgrades.
Okay.
Right?
So to be clear, you're always going to have upgrades on it because it's a melee character, so that's hard to exactly equate. But is a Skitari Ranger without the upgrades that bad? The answer is not really. But then suddenly, when you throttle 5 buffs on it in 1 turn, it becomes untenable. And exactly, I think that's the problem we're seeing with both of these factions is they can just stack and stack and stack.
Dude, I just got an analogy for you. Everybody sit down, hold on to your chairs. Skitari, Rangers, and Vanguard are the Craft World Eldar Guardians of 9th edition. I'll leave now. See you later. Do you remember what Guardians used to get away with last edition?
Oh, I mean,
I was losing Bane Blades to 20-man Guardian bombs. Bane Blades. Full health Bane Blades.
With the auto wounding, the AP -3, the 2+ invulnerable save, or 3+ invulnerable save, and 5 up feel no pain. Yeah, it was insane. The 20 block
double
of Guardians
shooting, double moving.
They could kill anything. In Yonari, they could kill anything.
Yeah, Rangers are exactly the same, man. Exactly the same. They can kill everything. You put enough buffs on it, or the Vanguard. Between one of them, you can put enough buffs on it that it kills pretty much any target.
Yeah, well, and you know, a lot of people were happy that because of the well, I don't know if they were happy, but they were interested because Skitarii had shifted towards the Skitarii Maniple, that they were no longer using Lucius to get the transhuman ability. But the bottom line is when you go Mars
Mm,
and suddenly you're also getting Canticles on all of the Skitarii, it's probably
mm.
worse.
Yeah, but look at so this is the power of Drukhari, right? Junior has like what 5 models left. He's like, I
Something
don't
like
care.
that.
Everything's quick. Everything kills. I'm just still gonna go
Well,
get a bunch of points. I don't care. It's like,
when maybe 3 of those 5 models are death in disguise and I
yeah,
don't know if
Death
disguise
Incarnate. Yeah.
death incarnate on these characters. I mean, Jazar, 2 succubi, that's all he needs. Like that can
Mm,
go through an army.
yeah,
So,
exactly right. What is really interesting here is it looks like Matthew got a donut on Eradication of Flesh, which is very surprising.
well, he had to because the both chicken all the flyers and the chickens died. He can't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
eradicate the flesh anymore.
But surely he
So,
got it like turn 1 or turn 2, right? Oh, is it? You only get it at the end of the game. You have a
eradicate.
vehicle left. No, it's
No,
it's
you do
progressive.
you get
It's every
turned.
turn. Yeah, yeah.
You get it.
Getting none in the entire game is what surprises me. I thought he'd get like a minimum of a 6.
Well, because you have to kill more units and still have vehicles remaining. Correct?
Yeah. Well, I thought he was only losing like 1, maybe 2 vehicles a turn, whereas he was like picking up 5, 6. Well, at least that's what it felt like. But yeah, possibly I was wrong.
It's pop. I think he would have gotten a turn 1, but then I think after that it was like 2 raiders, 2 flyers, 2 raiders,
Mm.
2 flyers. So
Ooh. Just been informed by the lovely Val. We have 383 players, sorry, people joining us from
beautiful
home.
people,
Thank you,
beautiful
beautiful,
people.
wonderful, lovely nerds that you are. Thank you so much for giving us your eyes. Thank you for everybody joining us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a sub. We've got 2 more games coming up today. Some of the best players that SoCal has to offer. Yeah, turn on the notifications so you know when we come back. We're going to be wrapping up and closing this off in the next couple of minutes. Just waiting for the final
Wait,
scores to come through to see who we've
oh
definitely got.
my
Did
word!
Junior
It looks
steal it?
like Junior stole it and scored a 61-54. That
Oh
is
my crap.
unreal.
Still coming through?
63.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We've still got Matthew Stork
Got too
getting pumped
excited.
up.
Hold on. Hold on.
How did
Hold
if
on.
he won? My God,
That's
70s
wow.
56. Okay.
If
Maybe
that's
there's Matthew score still to be added.
if that's
This is
oh
that's the
my
final
word.
scores.
That
Junior,
is unbelievable. Junior,
well
what a
done, man.
legend.
Well done. So there you
My
go.
word.
All right, guys. Just for so 65 to 70. Is there any more points to come from Matthew?
Do you realize what that means?
Yeah, AdMech's better. Drukhari's better than AdMech. Apparently,
AdMech has been knocked out
going
of the
first
final
and going
4.
second into Drukhari, and now we have
That's
3 Drukhari and a freebooter.
nerf Drukhari. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Add 150 points to a succubus.
Wow.
It should be a 200 point
Wow.
character. Hot take.
Junior, absolute baller,
what a legend.
So he won that game having like less than 10 models for the last 2 turns.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the thing I couldn't believe is that he essentially it looked like his Archon and his single Archon and his single left
What?
Hellion managed to kill all 10 infiltrators in the bottom right of the board.
We're getting reports, so the chat's saying they're hearing that it's a tie. We need confirmation.
We need
Demeki,
confirmation.
please give us the final scores. Yeah.
Because that would depend on how they're going to rule that. Is it total battle points would end up progressing? I guess at that point.
Yeah, exactly right. That'd be a rough way to go. All right, just give me a quick rundown of all the finalists so far. So Sean Naden going up 99 points to 62 against Joel Wilson. That being the Venom spam list of Sean Naden versus the Terminator spam list of Joel Wilson.
Yeah, Sean, where's the 100 points, huh?
Yeah,
where's the 100 points?
Pathetic.
Scrub.
Joel got a lot closer than he did last time. He went down by over 40 points last time, and he went down by just a bit over
37 points. Yeah, I mean, like we kind of saw this happening. It's unfortunately with a hold 2, hold 3 on a 6 objective mission that just puts the ball in Sean's court. In that list matchup.
Exactly right. Matt Estrada versus Quinton Johnson. Quinton played like an absolute monster, going first in that game and just completely destroying Matt's primary score. 85 to 64 was the final score there. Still very high scoring game by Matt Estrada, despite what went down. And another Drukhari progressing. What's our third one?
We have Scott LaFontaine, of course, who was the man, the myth, the legend with the Demons getting into the top 8 against Logan Heath with his Freebooters. Now, unfortunately, that ended 39 to 94 in favor of the Freebooters, which is a crushing crushing loss, but I mean, he still managed to make it this far with a codex that I think is maybe 5 or 6 years old. So good on him for taking it almost all the way.
So do you know what's an interesting prospect? If Junior did win that game, it is possible from this position we get a Drukhari first, second, third, and nobody wants that. So
okay,
Logan's our boy from here on out. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. That may mean that I get the matchup that I want, which is Shaw and Aiden versus the Freebooters, and then we get to actually see how it functions.
True. Val, you able to get us that final score, please, mate? Get him onto it. Chop chop. What's going on? It's been like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think they're
really?
talking it down
they're
right
still
now.
Talking. Nah, I'm looking at the scoreboard, unpacking our games, doing my job.
I still, if Junior and if
yeah, look, Logan is looking really well placed in this environment. I think he matches up really well. We know Booters match up really well against Drukhari.
I mean, I think we can even with if the possibility that Junior, the legend, managed to pull out a victory out of his hat with this game, I think that he unfortunately has what we were talking about, worst possible matchup against Orks.
Yep. 5 points up for Junior. Yep, wow. 70 to 65. So that score you see on right now, that is true and correct. Junior, I would love. Oh man, I'm going to go back and watch our coverage of this game because I really want to see what happened there. And like, were there any mistakes by the AdMech player? I didn't particularly see many. Maybe he threw away. So do you know actually what I would say was the only mistake I saw? He threw away a few too many resources when he didn't need to. Remember when he put those Rust Stalkers into that Raider and popped it, the one that had Drazar and the Succubus in it?
I don't know why he wanted to do that. I thought the whole point was to essentially just deny that back objective with the Raider, or the Cerberus Raiders.
Okay. We are going to be back in 30 minutes, guys. We're going to sign off from this one. Back with the semi-finals. Please join us. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Andrew, take us out.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us once again for SoCal Open 2021, round 1 of the final day. We'll see you in 30 minutes. Stay tuned.
At Frontline Gaming, we make the best tabletop gaming mats in the universe. Our mats are durable, rollable, foldable, wipeable, and storable. Oh, and they look damn great, too. Join the thousands of tournament regulars and garage gamers who use our mats to bring their gaming surfaces to life. To ensure quality, Frontline Gaming mats are custom-made one at a time, printed with high-quality ink. Our immersive designs stay crisp and are available in a wide range of styles and sizes. So whether you're playing a war game or a skirmish game, whether you're fighting over an alien tundra, fantastical forest, or real-world setting, there's a great-looking battlefield for you. Our gaming mats are printed on extremely durable neoprene backing, so they won't slide around the table, and they're thick enough to stay flat, protecting what's underneath and allowing for slight uneven surfaces. We know from experience that an easily portable gaming surface is just better. Every mat comes with a sturdy nylon zip-up bag for storage and transportation. Whether your next battle is in your home or at the local game store, you'll be able to unroll your FLG mat and get gaming right away. Our products are all made and tested by passionate gamers at Frontline Gaming HQ right here in the USA. It's time to take your battlefield to a new level. Frontline Gaming, champions of tabletop.